Chapter 47. Ah Cho took a deep look at Xiao Han. He felt that Xiao Han's spirit was full and strong after returning from this experiential learning. There was a sharp light in his eyes. Compared to before the experiential learning, it was simply incomparable. After observing Xiao Han's aura, it was obvious that he had reached an extremely high level of viscera refinement realm. The organs in his body were wriggling and there was a roar of dragons and tigers. Xiao Han, I realize that you are very different from before. Ah Cho murmured. Right. Confidence. I feel a very strong sense of confidence from you. Senior brother Ah Cho, how can we martial artists not have confidence? Without confidence, we are like a salted fish and can't make a comeback in this life. We will be stepped on by others for the rest of our lives. Xiao Han smiled casually. Ah Cho was speechless for a moment and silently digested Xiao Han's words. Right, senior brother Ah Cho, if you have the assistance of Medicine King Valley's snow bath pill, to cultivate the martial skills on the withered wood collection record, it will be twice the result with half the effort. I heard that after consuming the snow bath pill, one will not have any distracting thoughts for a certain period of time and can effectively help martial artists comprehend martial skills. Xiao Han smiled. Xiao Han, you brat, you know so much after a trip to the pugilistic world? You even know about Medicine King Valley's snow bath pill? Ah Cho grinned. However, the relationship between Medicine King Valley and our Cloud Rain sect doesn't seem to be very good. Medicine King Valley also sells elixirs to our Cloud Rain sect, but they are only some low-grade elixirs. Snow bath pill is not among them. Xiao Han secretly laughed in his heart. Snow bath pill is not sold in Cloud Rain sect? But I have eaten a few before. Right. Ah Cho slapped his forehead and said, Xiao Han, don't you always ask me about Shui Jianfeng? When you mentioned Medicine King Valley, I immediately thought of something related to Shui Jianfeng. And it's a big matter. What big matter? Xiao Han was shocked. As the number one outer sect disciple of our Cloud Rain sect, Shui Jianfeng proposed marriage to Medicine King Valley. He probably wanted to settle the marriage with an outer sect female disciple of Medicine King Valley. Shui Jianfeng's outer sect Mountain Peak was responsible for this matter, and they used their personal relationship to negotiate with the outer sect leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In short, this is the meaning of the matchmaker's words. Xiao Han, I'm sure you also know that almost all of the martial artists in our Beacon Fire Empire, including the great experts of the True Qi realm, all desire to have a companion from the Medicine King Valley. Think about it, when the time comes, that man at home will help you refine pills, all kinds of secret medicines will be endless, wouldn't it be awesome to cultivate? Once Shui Jianfeng's marriage was settled, his growth speed would be unstoppable. A genius and an alchemist, this kind of husband and wife combination has endless potential. Is that so? Xiao Han was slightly displeased. Looks like this marriage will work out. After all, Shui Jianfeng is not a nobody. Had the number one genius of our Cloud Rain sect's outer sect, he should be a match for an outer sect female disciple of the Medicine King Valley, right? That's hard to say. Ah Cho shook his head. Xiao Han, you don't know about this, right? The disciples of the Medicine King Valley, especially the female disciples, are in high demand. Regardless of whether it is the outer sect or the inner sect, most of them will marry the great experts of the True Qi realm. If not, they will marry into the royal family. The current empress of the Beacon Fire Empire, the motherly model of the world, is from the Medicine King Valley. There are also those who marry into the major sects of other empires. In the grand scheme of things, our Cloud Rain sect is really nothing. Ah Cho lowered his voice. There are 7 great empires in the southern region, 27 middle-sized countries, and countless small countries. Xiao Han, think about it, the Beacon Fire Empire is just a drop in the ocean. However, it is said that due to personal relations, a few outer sect leaders of the Medicine King Valley will personally come to the Cloud Rain sect to negotiate with Shui Jianfeng. This matter has already spread, we can go and watch the show then. And I will go and take a look then. Xiao Han suddenly had a strange thought. Is it possible for me to ruin this marriage? Let Shui Jianfeng's dreams go up in smoke. However, this thought only flashed past his mind. Xiao Han knew that in order to thoroughly take revenge on Shui Jianfeng, he must defeat him. Moreover, he must defeat him in front of everyone. Trample on his dignity and pride. The outer sect disciple ranking competition is the best time to achieve all of this. Xiao Han, do you owe Shui Jianfeng a favor or a grudge? I feel that you are very concerned about his matters. Ah Cho could not help but ask curiously. Senior brother Ah Cho, let's not talk about this for now. You will know everything in the future. Xiao Han laughed. At this moment, Xiao Han and Ah Cho arrived at the market halfway up the mountain. On both sides of the stone road, there were many shops. Xiao Han went out for training this time and plundered thousands of true martial coins. Among the outer sect disciples of this peak, he could be considered as a small tycoon. With money in hand, there was no need to panic. Xiao Han wanted to go to the elixir store to take a look and purchase some medicine for cultivation, or go to the street stalls to look for martial skill manuals. Who knows, he might be able to find one or two martial skills suitable for him. At this moment, the outer sect disciples who passed by the stone road all stopped when they saw Xiao Han and started to discuss in whispers. Xiao Han. It's Xiao Han. That's right. I heard that this kid went to train in the Jianghu and disappeared for half a month. Now he is finally back. Train my ass. I think he is hiding from Yang Lei. He took the initiative to set up a 10-day appointment with Yang Lei and said that he wanted to take one move from Yang Lei. In the end, he ran away. This kind of person climbed up from being a living target and is still cowardly in his bones. He has no backbone. Don't say it in such a bad way. How is Xiao Han without backbone? If he didn't have backbone, he wouldn't have challenged Wu Yan and Ling Hu Song. Look, after Xiao Han came back from training, his entire aura is even more condensed. Maybe he ran into some miraculous encounter. That's right, don't look down on this Xiao Han. I heard that the few leaders think highly of him. Otherwise they wouldn't have let him go out to train. Training is a lucrative job. Xiao Han, Tiske, look, the moment you came back there are people talking about you. Ah Cho said in a low voice beside Xiao Han. Hey, it doesn't matter. Come, senior brother Ah Cho, let's go to the elixir store to take a look. Xiao Han smiled and said. At this moment, Xiao Han. Stop. From the end of the long street, there was a loud roar. The roar was full of energy and sounded like a great bell. Immediately after, a large group of outer sect disciples walked towards Xiao Han aggressively. The one in the lead was wearing a purple long robe. He had a full forehead, was high-spirited and had a sharp aura. Who else could it be but Yang Lei? Xiao Han. Yang Lei is here. Ah Cho said in a low voice. Don't worry, I can handle it. Xiao Han smiled and walked over. Ah Cho followed closely behind. Xiao Han, I thought you would hide outside and not come back. Yang Lei said proudly. I can't hide anymore, right? At this moment, Xiao Han realized that Yang Lei's aura was much more condensed than before. There seemed to be a medicinal fragrance in his breath. It seemed that this guy didn't stay idle for the past half a month. Didn't you agree to fight with me in 10 days? It has been almost 20 days. Don't tell me you have forgotten about this? Yang Lei looked at Xiao Han with a sarcastic gaze. Continue to hide. If you have the ability, hide for the rest of your life. Be a tortoise for the rest of your life. Hee hee. Xiao Han said calmly. Yang Lei, don't say such ugly words. But this young master is just going out to train. I encountered some things on the way and was delayed. What are you blabbering about? Delayed? Ah. The group of outer sect disciples around Yang Lei laughed in disdain. If you are afraid, then you are afraid. Don't find excuses. All right, Xiao Han, let's not talk nonsense. You were the one who made the promise in 10 days. I also asked senior brother Ling Feiyu to help me gather 10,000 true martial coins. What, are you going to take this move of mine or not? If you don't dare to take it, that's fine too. Kneel down in front of all the outer sect disciples, bark like a dog and F***ck yourself. How about it? Hearing this, the surrounding outer sect disciples burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Xiao Han suddenly laughed wildly. Yang Lei, I think your brain is stuck in the door. Fine, I will play with you. But this time it is not me who takes your move. You take my move. Do you dare? If you can't take my move, the 10,000 true martial coins will belong to this young master. If you take my move, this young master will listen to you. Do you dare? Ah. The surrounding area suddenly became quiet. Xiao Han, what are you talking about? You want me to take your move? Yang Lei stared at Xiao Han with bulging eyes. I am in the marrow refining realm and you are in the viscera refining realm. There is an entire realm difference between us. You want me to take your move? Are you an idiot? One move. Xiao Han raised his right index finger and the corner of his mouth pulled into an arrogant smile. No matter what realm you are in, one move is enough to deal with someone like you. Chapter 48. But it was ridiculous. A viscera refinement realm martial artist wanted a marrow refinement realm martial artist to take on one move. This was a complete joke. Although Xiao Han had repeatedly challenged those at the viscera refinement realm, defeating Ling Hu Song and Wu Yan, the process had been extremely bitter. He had practically fought with his life on the line. Killing 10,000 enemies came with 8,000 casualties. Now that Xiaohan was at the Viscera refinement realm, he might be able to contend with Yang Lei. But it was definitely not a matter of one move. If he could not defeat Yang Lei in one move, he would be at his mercy? He was asking for it. He was courting death. According to the previous bet, Xiaohan would have to use all his strength to take on one move from Yang Lei. As long as he did not die in one move, he would be considered the winner. Moreover, everyone knew that Xiaohan, who used to be a live target, was very durable. Theoretically, he could fight for a chance of survival under Yang Lei's full strength. In fact, the pressure of this bet was on Yang Lei's side. If he could not kill Xiaohan in one move, his reputation would be ruined. But now Xiaohan actually played to his strengths and asked Yang Lei to take on one move from him. This could only be understood as his brain being damaged from practicing martial arts. Some of the outer sect disciples at the scene had an idea. That's right. Last time when Xiaohan went to the martial skill pavilion to choose a martial skill, he was tricked by Deacon Leng into giving him a piece of parchment paper. Now, it seems that Xiaohan studied that piece of parchment paper and went into qi deviation. His brain is completely damaged. This person is ruined. Ha 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 ha. Yang Lei was so angry that he laughed. His expression was uncertain as he looked at Xiaohan and said, "Xiaohan, do you know that you are courting death? In this half a month, Senior Ling Feiyu gave me a leopard embryo marrow refining pill. I painstakingly refined the medicinal power of this pill, sharpening my strength and building up my strength. Now my strength has reached 65 cauldrons. I can break metal and stone like breaking tiles and wood. What do you have to fight me? However, since you are courting death, I will fulfill your wish." Yang Lei had purposely told Xiaohan about how he had been in seclusion for half a month, refining pills, and how his strength had increased explosively. His goal was to destroy Xiaohan's fighting spirit and confidence. The group of outer disciples gasped when they heard Yang Lei's words. Generally speaking, a normal marrow refinement cultivator from a large sect would have a basic strength of 40 to 50 cauldrons. This was considered normal. Once one broke through to 60 cauldrons, they would be considered to have an exceptional aptitude. Yang Lei actually had a strength of 65 cauldrons. This was definitely not a small matter. All he had to do was condense his aura and polish his state of mind, and he would be able to enter the blood transformation realm. Acho trembled as he listened. "Let's go up the stage. The matter between us needs to be settled." Xiaohan flicked his fingernails. His facial expression did not change in the slightest. He actually gave off an unfathomable feeling. A group of people swarmed towards the arena area of this peak. Moreover, this news quickly spread from 1 to 10, and from 10 to 100. It was known to all the outer court disciples on this peak, and all of them surged towards the arena like tidewater. In the arena area. "Senior Acho, wait for me below. It's just one move. It's just a matter of a breath's time." Xiaohan patted Acho's shoulder and then walked up the stage calmly. Acho completely fell into a state of confusion. He looked at Xiaohan with his mouth agape. For a moment he choked and couldn't speak. "Yang Lei, come up." Xiaohan stood on the stage, hooked his finger at Yang Lei and said, "Oh right, did you bring the 10,000 true martial coins for the wager? If not, we don't have to fight anymore." Trash. The corner of Yang Lei's mouth twitched and his killing intent rose. He took out a handful of golden true martial coins. Xiaohan saw it clearly. This kind of golden true martial coins, each had a face value of 2,000. Good, very good. Xiaohan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and licked his lips. In the next moment, Yang Lei walked up the stage with a majestic gait. The two of them faced each other, separated by dozens of steps. He did not speak. Suddenly Yang Lei's body moved without any wind. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and in the midst of the rolling energy, one could vaguely see pieces of ancient scales appearing. These scales were pale gold, and had a kind of luxurious and threatening aura. Yang Lei's consummate skill, 8 forms of crippling dragon. Within the energy, dragon scales can be faintly seen. With just a little bit of use, it has the power to swallow a whale. Look, 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. Yang Lei's energy has evolved 6 pieces of dragon scales. It is said that once this martial skill evolves into 8 pieces of dragon scales in the energy, it is at the peak, one blow collapsing a mountain. Amazing. I didn't think that Yang Lei's attainment in martial skills had improved so much. Xiaohan is dead for sure. This live target is too arrogant. With just a little bit of cultivation, he is insufferably arrogant. This is the face of a villain intoxicated by success. Yes, a villain intoxicated by success without any foundation. Below the stage there were sounds of discussion. Xiaohan, you probably think that I, Linghu Song and Wu Yan are the same, right? Step by step, Yang Lei slowly walked towards Xiaohan. He didn't seem to use much strength, but the ground under his feet cracked inch by inch. His aura was rising steadily. Now, let me tell you, you can rely on pestering to defeat Linghu Song and Wu Yan, but you will never be able to defeat me. You can only look up to me. But later you will not even have the right to look up to me. Die. Being killed by me is your fate. Ha. Xiaohan also moved. Step by step he walked towards Yang Lei. However, when Xiaohan walked, he did not have the aura that Yang Lei had. It was as if he was taking a stroll, walking slowly. 30 steps, 20 steps, 10 steps, all of a sudden, a bleak air appeared above Xiaohan's head. The killing intent of late autumn shrouded the area in an instant. Withered leaves fluttered in the wind and wrinkles of old skin spread out. However, under the layers of old skin, green sprouts actually sprouted out, surging with the vitality of a withered tree in the spring. All the aura that Yang Lei had created was instantly diluted. In reality, the 8 forms of crippling dragon that Yang Lei was cultivating was a martial art created by a martial artist who found 8 pieces of scales by the sea 1,000 years ago. Some people said that these 8 pieces of scales were dragon scales, some said that they were snake scales, and some even said that they were scales shed by beasts. But no matter what, this martial art only allowed one to comprehend the aura from the scales. It was not very profound. Moreover, when Yang Lei was cultivating this martial art, he did not have the chance to personally hold the scales and comprehend the concept contained within. He only visualized and cultivated through the scroll, so he did not understand the essence of this martial arts aura. Xiaohan's withered wood treasured record was different. The creator of this martial art had personally left behind a piece of ancient withered wood for Xiaohan to visualize. Therefore, not to mention who was stronger between Xiaohan and Yang Lei just from the perspective of aura, Yang Lei lost by a few notches. Under such circumstances, Yang Lei's aura was greatly diminished. Xiaohan's aura was getting stronger and stronger. How is this possible? Yang Lei was shocked. He felt like his life was in someone else's hands. Pretentious. Break for me. 8 forms of crippling dragon. Crippling dragon leg. In the blink of an eye, Yang Lei leapt into the air and his right leg swept towards Xiaohan. The wind howled, tearing one's heart and splitting one's lungs. Amidst the wind from the kick, scales flashed and emitted traces of an ancient aura, causing the ground to explode chaotically. Xiaohan did not move an inch. Suddenly, Xiaohan grabbed with his right hand, and his energy condensed into a withered wood pillar. It was 5 feet long, covered in old bark, and sprouts sprouted. One move. Xiaohan roared and the withered wood pillar smashed down. Pooh! In the next moment, Yang Lei's aura dissipated and his attack collapsed. His entire body sank a few inches into the ground, twitching and spitting out blood. It was over. Yang Lei's ferocious attack did not do anything, and he was smashed to the ground by Xiaohan. Whether he was dead or alive was unknown. It was really one move. Yang Lei did not even manage to block one move from Xiaohan. There was dead silence below the stage. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. In the bloody battle in Demon Town, I killed God knows how many loose demons. Therefore my martial skills have become more solid. Be it the Withered Wood Collection or the Son of Heaven's Fist, I have a deeper understanding of them. This Yang Lei's strength is 65 cauldrons and my strength is 80 cauldrons. I can easily suppress him. Moreover, his understanding of martial skills is not as deep as mine, so he was defeated in one move. Now, after every battle, Xiaohan would subconsciously evaluate the battle and weigh the gains and losses. Now, in the physical body realm, those who can threaten me are those whose strength surpasses mine, and those who have a deep understanding of martial skills. Of course, this is under the condition that I don't use the demon god's palm. These thoughts flashed through his mind in a flash. At this moment, Xiaohan walked over, bent down, and patted Yang Lei's head with a faint smile. Don't worry, I held back just now. You won't die. At most, your tendons and bones will be broken, and your cultivation will be destroyed. As he spoke, Xiaohan took out the few true martial coins from Yang Lei's chest. There were a total of 5 coins, each with a face value of 2,000. No more, no less, just 10,000 true martial coins. Xiaohan. An outer sect disciple jumped out from below the stage and stuttered. Xiaohan, don't be rash. You won against Yang Lei, so you're capable. However, these true martial coins are the savings of senior brother Ling Feiyu over the years. This time, senior brother Ling Feiyu is going to the sea to comprehend power. When he returns, he will use these true martial coins to purchase medicinal ingredients and break through to the true Qi realm. Leave the true martial coins. Don't embezzle them. Otherwise, if senior brother Ling Feiyu is furious, you won't be able to bear the consequences. These 10,000 true martial coins were a huge sum. More than half of it was accumulated by Ling Feiyu himself, and the other half was borrowed by Ling Feiyu. He didn't think that Yang Lei would lose to Xiao Han, so he gave this huge sum to Yang Lei for the bet. In fact, it was equivalent to temporarily leaving it with Yang Lei. He didn't expect that after all his calculations he still made a mistake. Yang Lei actually lost all of Ling Feiyu's wealth. Xiao Han, leave the true martial coins. A group of outer sect disciples screamed. Hehehe, the bet of 10,000 true martial coins was agreed upon beforehand. I don't care who these true martial coins belong to. A win is a win, a loss is a loss. There is no reason to spit out what I have swallowed. If anyone is not convinced, then come forward. Xiao Han's gaze swept across the group of outer sect disciples that jumped out. Under Xiao Han's overbearing gaze, all these outer sect disciples shrunk their necks. Xiao Han looked around, and when no one dared to make a sound, he jumped off the stage, walked to Ah Chou's side and said with a smile, "Senior brother Ah Chou, you've really earned a lot this time." Ah! At this moment, many outer sect disciples that were watching the battle below the stage woke up from the shock. Immediately after, it was a sea of discussion. Too powerful. Xiao Han really defeated Yang Lei in one move, and it was like a hot knife through butter. I am convinced now, and it is impossible for me to not be convinced. It seems like our peak's third genius has risen. Strong rise. Xiao Han is already our peak's third genius, and there is no longer any suspense. More than that. Think about it, how long has Xiao Han been in the outer sect? At the very most, it would only take a few months. From a live target to defeating Yang Lei in one move, his improvement is monstrous. I think senior brother Ling Feiyu and senior brother Meng Ran's positions are in danger. No matter what, there is a good show to watch now. Senior brother Ling Feiyu and senior brother Meng Ran will not sit idly by and let a person that threatens their position rise. When senior brother Ling and senior brother Meng return, it will be another fierce battle. Just at this moment, clap, 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 applause sounded. From far to near. A light voice passed over, not bad, your peak has always been filled with mediocre people, and today a passable character has appeared. Not bad, a general picked from the dwarves. Everyone looked towards the voice. They saw a group of people walking over from not far away. All of them were arrogant and despotic, and their gazes swept across the north, south, east, and west. That imposing manner was like a group of imperial envoys that had arrived at some small town and were patrolling. The leader was a young man of 18 or 19 years old. He wore a light golden robe, and his eyelids were also light golden. He was of average height and his appearance was average. However, there was a vicious aura around him and his eyes were like the wind and lightning, and he was very dignified. As he walked, dragons and snakes flew, and vitality filled the air. His aura was tyrannical, surpassing the marrow-refining realm and was blood-changing realm. This person's aura was even stronger than Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran's. Senior brother Ah Chou, this group of people doesn't seem to be from our peak, right? Xiao Han frowned and asked softly. This group of people. Xiao Han, this is the outer sect disciple of the peak that is ranked third among the outer sect's 10 peaks. The person at the front is one of the 5 geniuses of that peak, Zheng Shan, a blood transformation realm expert. The martial skill that he cultivates is the eagle snake sky splitting strike. His hands are like eagle claws and his leg technique is like a python. It is not to be underestimated. In the previous outer sect disciple ranking competition, Zheng Shan was ranked 17th, just enough to suppress senior brother Ling Feiyu and senior brother Meng Ran. This guy is very competitive and has already come to our peak several times to openly provoke and humiliate. Ah Chou quickly explained. When the outer sect disciples of this peak saw Zheng Shan and the others, they immediately revealed extremely complicated expressions. Some had sullen faces, some had frightened eyes, some lowered their heads and some clenched their fists. Oh? Where are Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran? Did they hide outside to train again? Ah. I recently obtained a secret skill and comprehended some principles of the martial Tao, so I prepared to find Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran to spar. In the end. They are quite smart. They know that their cultivation isn't good enough, so they went out to train every 3 to 5 days. Zheng Shan laughed with a face full of ridicule. The group of outer sect disciples behind Zheng Shan echoed and laughed. The martial Tao was extremely cruel. If one skill was inferior to others, they would be stepped on, trampled, and ridiculed and slapped in the face by others like Jing Shan. All the outer sect disciples of this peak were gnashing their teeth, but Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran weren't here. Without a leader they didn't dare to stand out. Jing Shan, don't go too far. Do you know that senior brother Ling and senior brother Meng aren't here, so you intentionally came to show off? An outer sect disciple of this peak couldn't bear it anymore and finally roared out. Shut up. An outer sect disciple behind Jing Shan jumped out and used his finger to point at the furious and roaring outer sect disciple. Say another word and I'll teach you a lesson. Oh, I'll remember your appearance. In the future, when I have the chance to leave the sect to train, I'll properly deal with you when I'm outside. Of course, if you dare to go up the stage now, I'll immediately break your arms and legs. That roaring outer sect disciple was threatened and immediately didn't dare to make a sound. He deeply lowered his head. The thousands of outer sect disciples of this peak all lowered their heads in absolute silence. They didn't dare to say anything. What's your name? I can see that your comprehension of martial skills is quite decent, but your cultivation level is too low. Jing Shan suddenly looked at Xiao Han and began to criticize him. Tell me your name, I'll remember it. Let's see if you can stand out in the outer sect ranking competition in 3 to 5 years. Jing Shan looked at Xiao Han with a condescending gaze and said slowly, your aptitude is barely considered not bad in this peak. Let's go, senior brother Acho. Now that we have the true martial coins, let's go and have some fun. Xiao Han ignored Jing Shan and pulled Acho to leave. Xiao Han. Jing Shan is talking to you? Acho swallowed a mouthful of dry saliva. I don't even know him, why should I care about him? It's a waste of saliva. Xiao Han said with a faint smile. Just like that, Xiao Han pulled Acho and walked straight out of the arena area, about to brush past Jing Shan and the others. Jing Shan's expression changed. Stop. Kid. Our senior brother Jing Shan is talking to you, are you deaf? Stop. Kneel down and apologize. Let's see if you can get senior brother Jing's forgiveness. The outer sect disciples behind Jing Shan all roared. They had nothing to worry about. Their peak was ranked 3rd among the 10 peaks of Cloud Rain Sect's outer sect, while Xiao Han's peak was only ranked 7th or 8th. The difference was huge. Xiao Han immediately stopped. He slowly turned around. You guys are really a little bored. Not only did you come to our peak to bark, you even dare to ask me to kneel? Are you guys out of your minds? And who's that? Jing Shan, right? You said you cultivated a secret skill, so you wanted to spar with Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran to test the power of this secret skill. I think you're retarded. What is a secret skill? A secret trump card and you want to spar with others? Tell me, are you retarded? The entire place was silent. Chapter 49. He would not rest until his words shocked everyone to death. The effect of Xiao Han's words was to cause the thousands of people present to be dumbfounded. Who was Jing Shan? He was a powerful person who was ranked 17th in the previous outer sect disciple ranking competition of Cloud Rain Sect. In terms of fame, he even surpassed Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran. Among the 20,000-odd outer sect disciples of Cloud Rain Sect, he was definitely 1 in 1,000. Stunning and brilliant. It was usually impossible for someone like Jing Shan to be scolded. At the very least, in the entire outer sect of Cloud Rain Sect, there were very few people who dared to call him a retard. Even though Jing Shan often relied on her ranking to be higher than Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran and came to this peak to put on airs, Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran only turned a blind eye to it. If she was really forced, she would say a few harsh words and both parties would be in a deadlock for a short while before it ended. However, it was impossible for them to scold him so openly. However, Xiao Han scolded. Thousands of pairs of eyes swept towards Xiao Han. Xiao Han's expression was calm as though nothing had happened. Xiao Han is so arrogant that he has no bottom line. At that moment, the thousands of outer sect disciples of this peak experienced a drastic change in mentality. Previously, when Xiao Han challenged Yang Lei with a frivolous attitude, most of the outer sect disciples of this peak thought that Xiao Han was a typical example of a petty, arrogant and overconfident person. He was simply repulsive. But now, as an outer disciple of this peak, Xiao Han was cursing and humiliating the invaders from the other peaks. He still had the face of a vile person intoxicated by success and was still as arrogant as before, but he scolded to his heart's content. All the outer sect disciples of this peak were insulted. The peak that Xiao Han resided in was weak. Not only did the outer sect disciples of this peak receive far less basic benefits than the outer sect disciples of other peaks, they were also often bullied. There were many instances where Jing Shan took advantage of them and came to their doorstep to humiliate them. In fact, there were a few times when the outer sect disciples of this peak could not take it anymore and fought with Jing Shan's lackeys. In the end they were severely injured. However, Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran did not retaliate. In the end, they only received some elixirs as compensation and settled the matter. As a result, many of the outer disciples of the peak were quite dissatisfied with Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran. But today Xiao Han vented all the resentment that everyone had been suppressing in their hearts. The word retard seemed to have been scolded on behalf of everyone. Awesome. Senior brother Xiao Han. Well scolded. An outer disciple of this peak could not help but shout. The word senior brother Xiao Han was tantamount to acknowledging Xiao Han's position in the outer court. Just then, impudent. You deserve to die 10,000 times over. How audacious. He's simply courting death. The lackeys standing behind Jing Shan came to their senses, and all of them began to bark like mad dogs. In the blink of an eye, all of them began to emit surging power. Some of them even drew their weapons and were about to charge at Xiao Han. In their anger they wanted to surround and attack Xiao Han. What? How dare he openly break the rules of the sect? Attack senior brother Xiao Han here? What a bully. Fight. Fight it out with them. Go. When the outer court disciples of this peak saw this, they were all enraged. Clang clang clang. The sound of weapons being unsheathed could be heard continuously. Swords were drawn. A large-scale fight was about to take place. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly Jing Shan laughed loudly. His laughter was like a tiger or leopard, shaking the field and enveloping all directions. In an instant, it forcefully shocked the thousands of people present. The scene that had gone out of control instantly quieted down. Good, very good. How many years has it been since someone scolded me like this? Jing Shan narrowed his eyes slightly, and the muscles at the corner of his eyes twitched continuously. Under his skin, a fierce aura burst out, as if there was a ferocious beast that was about to break out of his body and come out to eat people. But he was restraining himself. Jing Shan opened his eyes. His gaze was surprisingly calm, but deep in his eye sockets hid deep resentment and murderous intent. It was as if he would not rest until he was dead. His tone was also terrifyingly calm. You have guts. Very gutsy. You are much more gutsy than Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran. What you said just now is somewhat reasonable. A secret skill is a trump card that is kept secret. It cannot be used to exchange pointers. It can only be used to kill. Xiao Han's heart moved. This Jing Shan is quite a character. When he is arrogant, he is extremely arrogant. However, when he was humiliated by me in front of his face, he was able to endure and did not immediately attack. Instead, he was talking to me leisurely here. This shrewdness is much more powerful than Yang Lei. However, not everyone has the right to humiliate me. Especially a small fry like you who is only at the viscera refinement realm. Jing Shan looked at Xiao Han. I think you and Ling Feiyu's follower Yang Lei will fight to decide the winner with one move. My realm is much higher than yours. Due to my status, I will not oppress you. However, I will not allow my dignity to be humiliated by you. Do you dare to fight to the death with me? One of Jing Shan's followers immediately stood up and said, Senior brother, there is no need for you to personally deal with such a lowly person. Let me do it for you. Step down. Jing Shan waved his hand. He stared at Xiao Han without blinking. The resentment and murderous intent in his eyes became more and more intense. When Jing Shan said this, all the outer sect disciples of this mountain tensed up. All of them looked at Xiao Han. Right now, whether Xiao Han agreed or not was related to the dignity of this mountain. If he did not agree, then he would have called him an idiot for nothing. Moreover, it would seem like he was trying to be brave with words. However, most of the outer sect disciples of this mountain still rationally believed that Xiao Han would not agree. After all, Jing Shan was not Yang Lei. Even 10 Yang Lei would not be Jing Shan's match. The difference between Xiao Han and Jing Shan was too great. They were two great realms apart. It was an insurmountable chasm. Unexpectedly, Xiao Han did not speak at all. He directly used his actions to answer Jing Shan. Xiao Han leaped and jumped onto a stage. Good. You have guts. Jing Shan hissed and laughed. With a shake of his feet, he jumped onto the stage in 2 or 3 steps. The two of them clashed. You used one move to deal with Yang Lei. I will also use one move to deal with you. Suddenly Jing Shan's aura exploded. An indescribable sharpness and fierceness gushed out from his body. As the energy rolled, it covered the heavens and the earth. Boom, 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 within his body, There was even the sound of 10,000 horses galloping. Oh no! This Zheng Shan is going to go all out in one move. This is not a spar. Seeing this, Ah Cho could not help but stomp his feet. And at this moment Xiao Han's eyes seemed empty. He seemed to be thinking but not thinking. He had entered a mysterious state. The voices from all directions quietened down. It was extremely quiet. All the success and failure, honor and disgrace, were all insignificant. This was a state that Xiao Han unintentionally entered when he was in the demon town. In this state his grasp of power would reach a superb level. This guy's aura is very strong. It far surpasses Yang Lei. It is even stronger than Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran that I saw with my own eyes. It is even comparable to the outer sect genius of Mingjian Villa, Shangguani. He wants to fight me with one move. Then I cannot use withered wood palm and wooden dragon pillar. I will slowly grind him down. One move then. After the last experience, let me see how powerful my sovereign's descent is now. This Zheng Shan, in the last outer sect ranking competition, was ranked 17th. He will be my testing stone. This guy is very strange. Although his realm is low, his understanding of power is extremely strong. I have underestimated him. However, under the absolute difference in realm, my strength is enough to crush him. Zheng Shan was also a person with a firm will. He was not affected by the faintly discernible aura that Xiao Han emitted. Suddenly, eagle snake sky splitting strike. Zheng Shan's left foot stomped on the ground. Wind and clouds gathered under his feet. His strength transformed into a 5 to 6 meter long giant python. It had a head and a tail. It shook its head and chose its target. Bang! Zheng Shan's leap broke through the air and he had already arrived in front of Xiao Han. The giant python opened its mouth and bit towards Xiao Han. At the same time, Zheng Shan pushed out both of his palms. His strength could topple mountains and overturn seas. His strength transformed into an eagle. It spread its wings and soared. It was agile and sharp. The eagle's claws directly clawed at Xiao Han. Bang! 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 The area where Xiao Han was at cracked and exploded, tearing out a ravine. Dust and smoke filled the air. The arena was simply filled with turbulence. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere. At this moment, the space above Xiao Han's head seemed to break open. The figure of an emperor directly appeared. Suppress the world. No one dares to disobey. Kill all living beings like dust. Sovereign's descent. Xiao Han punched out. When this punch was thrown out, Xiao Han's entire body seemed to have risen several zhang. His momentum was unparalleled. Bang! The two exchanged blows and retreated at the same time. Xiao Han retreated 10 steps. Zheng Shan also retreated 10 steps. Xiao Han's clothes were full of holes and his hair was slightly messy. On the other hand, Zheng Shan's appearance did not show any abnormalities. And good. This move counts as a draw. However, I still have a secret skill that I have yet to use. Forget it. You are qualified to participate in this year's Outer Sect Disciple Ranking Competition. We will compete again at that time. Zheng Shan said indifferently. Then he directly floated down the arena. Without saying a word, he left with his group of followers. Hey, you have a secret skill that you have up your sleeve? Do you think I don't have one? I still have an emperor's armor that I have yet to use. Xiao Han smiled slightly. This guy's physical defense is not bad. His offense is not as good as that Mingjian Villa Shangguani, but his defense is slightly stronger. My current attack power and grasp of momentum are much more solid than when I fought against Shangguani. However, if I only use the Sovereign's Descent and not the Emperor's Robe, I will not be able to directly kill a practitioner of Zheng Shan's level with a single punch. Senior brother Xiao Han actually fought to a draw with Zheng Shan. It's a draw. Amazing. Too amazing. I didn't even see how senior brother Xiao Han attacked just now. In other words, the third genius of our peak has been born. Senior brother Xiao Han is able to fight to a draw with Zheng Shan, who is ranked 17th in the outer sect. In other words, he is completely on par with senior brother Ling Feiyu and senior brother Meng Ran. What do you mean on par? What realm is senior brother Xiao Han at? Organs refinement. What realm are senior brother Ling Feiyu and senior brother Meng Ran at? Blood transformation. Senior brother Xiao Han is able to fight against someone of a higher realm without showing any signs of losing. The difference is obvious. Genius. A genius that shocks the world. Looks like it's time for our peak to rise. At this moment, the outer sect disciples of this peak below the arena were all excited. All of them addressed Xiao Han as senior brother, with a very respectful tone. In Cloud Rain sect, whether it was the outer sect disciples or the inner sect disciples or even the true disciples at the true energy realm, seniority was not based on who entered the sect, age or even cultivation realm. It was based on combat strength. Whoever had the strongest combat strength would be the senior brother. Xiao Han was able to fight against Zheng Shan without being at a disadvantage. Even Zheng Shan admitted that it was a draw. Then without a doubt he was the senior brother of this group of outer sect disciples. He was not going to pass on the responsibility. Ha! Xiao Han smiled slightly and jumped off the arena. Xiao Han. You actually grew to such an extent. It's simply unbelievable. Acho immediately jumped over. Xiao Han, you're too amazing. Then he said softly. I'm afraid that even senior brother Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran wouldn't dare to say that they can win against you for sure. Hehe, I still have to cultivate more. Senior brother Acho, my little bit of cultivation is nothing. Xiao Han said honestly. If a martial artist at the true energy realm wants to kill me, it's just a finger. Moreover, I still don't know the situation of the martial artists at the physical body realm from the other sects and empires. Senior brother Acho, you can't be blinded by a single leaf. On the mountain path down the mountain, Zheng Shan walked quickly with a group of followers. Zheng Shan did not say a word. His face was terrifyingly cold. Senior brother, why did you only use one move? Senior brother, you still have many ultimate moves that you haven't used. If you continue to fight, that kid will definitely not be able to withstand it. It's only a matter of time before he is killed by senior brother. Senior brother, it seems like you're kind-hearted and let that kid go. Senior brother is repaying evil with kindness. Such sentiments tsk. Shut up. Suddenly Zheng Shan roared. In the next moment his face was like a golden paper. Suddenly, pff. A big mouthful of blood spurted out from Zheng Shan's mouth. What? Senior brother, you're injured? How is this possible? Immediately after, pff. Zheng Shan continuously vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. His face suddenly turned pale and he knelt down in an instant. Pff. Another mouthful of blood spurted out. Then he immediately fainted. Senior brother is injured. Quickly help him up. Do you have any healing medicine on you? Quickly take it out. Quick. Senior brother is seriously injured. The group of followers were completely terrified. Unexpectedly, after Zheng Shan exchanged one move with Xiao Han, he continuously vomited 5 mouthfuls of blood before he even left the mountain. Then he fainted and lost consciousness. P.S. Staying up late to update, seeking recommendation tickets and Sanjiang tickets. Also, recommend a super cool good book. Chapter 50. What was rare was that his expression was still so tranquil, as if the battle between him and Zheng Shan from before was only a small matter that could be casually discussed. This kind of bearing moved people. Xiao Han, you must have had a fortuitous encounter when you went out to train. Otherwise, it would be impossible for you to fight Zheng Shan and not be at a disadvantage. Acho looked at Xiao Han with a shocked gaze, but he quickly changed the topic. All right. Xiao Han, I won't ask you anymore. Martial artists have their own fortuitous encounters and have their own secrets. Getting to the bottom of things is a taboo. Right, Xiao Han, the move you used to defeat Yang Lei was a martial skill from the Withered Tree Treasure Record, right? Powerful. Too powerful. Yes, senior brother Acho, cultivate the Withered Tree Treasure Record properly. I don't dare to say anything else, but if you encounter martial artists like Yang Lei in the future, you will be able to deal with them. Xiao Han smiled. Great. I never thought that Acho, would have a day where I can stand out. Xiao Han, this is all thanks to you. Acho smiled with a fascinated expression. The two of them arrived at the mountainside area where there were many stalls. They walked side by side into the store where they bought the medicinal pills last time. Acho, you brought your friend here to buy medicinal pills again? The owner of this store, the amiable middle-aged fatty, Boss Ma, welcomed them with a smile. He looked at Xiao Han with a strange look in his eyes and blurted out. Young man, I haven't seen you for a few months. Your aura is actually so smooth and steady. You've reached the peak of organs refinement? Xiao Han didn't answer directly and only said, Boss Ma, can I trouble you to introduce me to the various medicinal pills for marrow refinement? As expected, you've already started marrow refinement. The last time you came here to buy organs refinement medicinal pills. You've just started organs refinement at that time. TSK, your improvement is godly. You're a genius. Boss Ma was moved. Then he passed a piece of paper filled with tiny words to Xiao Han. Young man, as usual, There are all kinds of marrow refinement medicinal pills on this piece of paper. Choose the price yourself. All right, thank you, Boss Ma. Xiaohan took the paper and glanced at it. In the physical body realm, marrow tempering was much more troublesome and difficult than viscera tempering, bone tempering, and skin tempering. It was not that easy to cultivate. The method to refine one's marrow was to consume a marrow refining elixir. However, this kind of marrow refining elixir was not directly absorbed by the body. Instead, it was turned into granules and adhered to the surface of the bones. The granules would then slowly seep into the bone marrow from the surface of the bones. The medicinal effects would then settle in the bone marrow. In order to refine the marrow, one must first have a good foundation. One must refine the bones to a certain degree and refine the viscera well. Only then would the bones be able to effectively absorb the medicinal power. For example, a martial artist at Achao's level, although he had reached the peak of the organ refinement aspect in theory, but he was still lacking by a bit. So even if he took a pill to refine the marrow, it would settle on the surface of his bones and he would not be able to absorb it. If one wanted to refine one's marrow well, it depended on three aspects. Firstly, he had a good innate aptitude. With a good aptitude, one would be able to absorb the medicinal energy of the marrow refinement pill at a much faster rate than others. This was a congenital condition that could not be forced. Secondly, it was the marrow refining elixir. If the quality of the elixir was good, the absorption would be relatively faster. Furthermore, a good elixir would contain fewer impurities and more medicinal energy. On the contrary, a cheap and inferior elixir would usually have more impurities and less medicinal energy. The bones would absorb for half a day but would not be able to absorb much nutrients. Thirdly, it was acquired diligence. The medicinal energy of the marrow refinement pill adhered to the surface of the bones. Other than the bones automatically absorbing it, one could also continuously practice martial skills or even fight with others, resulting in physical exhaustion. This would allow the medicinal granules adhered to the surface of the bones to completely dissolve and finally settle in the bones, becoming one with the bone marrow. In refining the marrow, the innate aptitude was congenital. Medicinal pills and hard training were acquired. Almost all three were indispensable. It was very, very difficult. The human body had 206 bones. The marrow of every bone must be permeated with medicinal energy to change the quality of the bone marrow. Even if there was one bone without medicinal energy, the marrow refinement pill would not be considered complete. Moreover, when Xiaohan saw the price on the paper, he understood that the marrow refinement pill was very expensive. Fundamental marrow refinement pill. 50 true martial coins for one. This pill has many impurities and the quality is not high. Ice bear marrow strengthening pill. 200 true martial coins for one. Soul nourishing pill. 200 true martial coins for one. Leopard embryo marrow cleansing pill. 500 true martial coins for one. Misty cloud flower. Spirit grass type. 1000 true martial coins for one. 1000-year mystic turtle blood. 20,000 true martial coins for one bottle. Marrow refinement pill is extremely difficult and requires a large amount of medicinal pills. The human body has 206 bones, and every bone must be permeated with medicinal energy. This is not something that can be achieved with just one or two medicinal pills. No wonder so many outer court disciples are stuck in the marrow refinement realm all year round. Xiaohan sighed. He immediately gritted his teeth and took out the 10,000 true martial coins that he won from Yang Lei today. He pondered for a moment and said to Boss Ma, "Boss Ma, I want 20 leopard embryo marrow cleansing pills." A single transaction was worth 10,000 true martial coins. This was definitely a big deal. Boss Ma did not dare to be negligent. He diligently put the 20 leopard embryo marrow cleansing pills into a big bottle and presented it to Xiaohan with both hands. Xiaohan put the bottle in his pocket and said, "Boss Ma, according to your experience, how far can 20 leopard embryo marrow cleansing pills be used to refine the marrow?" Young man, the leopard embryo marrow cleansing pill is a low-grade marrow refinement pill. Each pill contains about 50% impurities and 50% essence. 20 pills can cover 80 bones. Of course, absorbing the medicinal energy will depend on your bone structure and hard work. According to my experience, if a martial artist with an ordinary aptitude takes these 20 pills and practices diligently every day, it will take about 2 years for the medicinal power to be completely absorbed and settled in the bone marrow. However, young man, I can see that your cultivation speed is godly and can be called monstrous. I'm afraid it won't take that long. Boss Ma replied attentively. Yes, I understand. Xiaohan nodded and immediately spent thousands of true martial coins to buy a lot of marrow refinement pills for Acho. Acho was very grateful. The two of them took the medicinal pills and left the shop. Xiaohan, you are really my brother. Ah Cho said with tears in his eyes. Aha, senior brother Ah Cho, you are too polite. Xiaohan said indifferently. We are good friends. What are some true martial coins? Furthermore, senior brother Ah Cho has decided to participate in this year's Outer Sect Disciple Ranking Competition. I will naturally do my best. Now that you have medicinal pills and martial techniques, senior brother Ah Cho can go into closed-door cultivation. Yes. I will definitely go into closed-door cultivation. Ah Cho vowed solemnly and looked toward Xiaohan. Xiaohan, you are going to participate in this year's Outer Sect Disciple Ranking Competition too? I want to get first place. Xiaohan blurted out. Ah Cho was overjoyed. That's great. Xiaohan, if you can really become the champion of the Outer Sect Disciple Ranking Competition and become the number one of our Cloud Rain Sect's Outer Sect disciples, then I will be proud. Ah. Furthermore, the reward for first place is very generous. However, Xiaohan, the top 3 last year all had great luck, great fortuitous encounters, great perseverance, great wisdom and great bone structure. You cannot let your guard down. Jing Shan, who fought with you today, was only ranked 17th. The higher the ranking, the greater the difference in battle strength. Last year's 3rd place instantly defeated the 4th place in one move. In fact, the top 5 disciples are all half-step true Qi cultivators, and they can compete with many inner disciples. And, senior brother Ah Cho, I will also make use of this opportunity to cultivate properly. I will also go into closed-door cultivation. Xiaohan's confidence did not waver at all. His will was already as firm as a rock. Let's go, Xiaohan. Let's all go back and train hard. In the Outer Sect Disciple Ranking Competition half a year later, I will fight for my pride and reputation. You will suppress everyone and take the crown. Ah Cho said excitedly. At this moment, senior brother Xiaohan, a young female disciple who looked like a pretty girl from a humble family, ran towards Xiaohan with a red face. Xiaohan was stunned. Xiaohan. Senior brother Xiaohan. That young female disciple did not dare to look up at Xiaohan. She was extremely shy and said softly. Senior brother Xiaohan, the 3 principals want to see you. They want you to go to the Summit Plaza immediately. Oh? They want to see me now? Didn't they say they would find me in a few days and reward me with elixirs and martial skill manuals? Xiaohan could not help but mutter. That female disciple laughed and said, Senior brother Xiaohan, the news of your fight with Zheng Shan has already spread to the 3 principals. They are wild with joy and want to summon senior brother Xiaohan now. Is that so? Xiaohan laughed involuntarily. This news really spreads fast. The female disciple quickly looked up at Xiaohan. Once she met Xiaohan's gaze, she lowered her head and said, Senior martial brother Xiaohan, this kind of news spreads like wildfire. Not only our summit, at most tomorrow the entire Outer Sect's 10 peaks, senior brother Xiaohan, will become famous and completely rise. Yes, Xiaohan, you are famous. The fight with Zheng Shan will make you completely famous in the Outer Sect. Ah Cho said seriously at the side. Alright, I will go to the summit now. Xiaohan shook his head and laughed. After walking a few steps, that female disciple seemed to have mustered up her courage and shouted behind Xiaohan. Senior brother Xiaohan. I saw that when you fought with Zheng Shan today your clothes had a lot of holes. I will come over tonight to mend it for you, is that okay? Xiaohan was shocked and immediately walked to the summit in 2 or 3 steps. He only heard the female disciple talking with Ah Cho. Ah Cho, where is senior brother Xiaohan's courtyard? Bring me there. Never mind, you should ask Xiaohan yourself. On the summit. Xiaohan saw the 3 principals. Ah, Xiaohan. What a good Xiaohan. The 3 principals rushed over with flushed faces and surrounded Xiaohan. Xiaohan. We know that you have improved after returning from this experiential learning, but we still misjudged. You actually improved to this level. Killing Yang Lei in a single move? But, to be able to fight Jing Shan to a standstill in a single move, this is simply unheard of. What realm are you in? You're the Viscera Refinement. A Viscera Refinement martial artist did not lose a single move against a blood transformation martial artist. This has never happened before in the history of our Cloud Rain sect. Xiaohan. You have gained face for the 3 of us. Let us sweep away our bad luck and completely hold our heads up high. Xiaohan, do you know how humiliated we were in the past? In front of the principals of the other peaks, we could almost say that we could not even lift our heads. After all, Our peak was lacking in talents and only produced Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran. They could only be said to be ordinary geniuses. Great, you have risen. You have gained face for us and we can finally lift our heads up and say a few words. Ah, awesome. The three principals were full of praise for Xiao Han and praised him to the heavens. He even said some nonsense like, no one in the past and no one in the future, causing Xiao Han to have goosebumps all over his body. After a long time, the three principals finally got to the main topic. Xiao Han, we have reported the matter of your training this time and the higher-ups have given you a reward. In terms of elixirs, if there are no surprises, it should be a supreme-grade marrow refinement elixir, one of the principals said with a radiant expression. Yes, that's good. I am preparing to refine my marrow and am stockpiling elixirs, Xiao Han replied immediately. Marrow refinement requires too many elixirs to expend. I am poor and cannot afford it. I hope that the three elders will put in a few good words for me and reward me with more marrow refinement elixirs. Don't worry, Xiao Han. We will go to the higher-ups later. Even if we have to waste our breath, we will definitely fight for the greatest benefits for you. Who else should we groom if not you? One of the principals took charge of everything and said, Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran did not stand up for us and gain face like you did. You must be groomed. Another principal continued the conversation immediately. There's one more thing. It's to choose martial technique manuals. Xiao Han, you are going to start refining your marrow now. So, we suggest that you choose a weapon and get the higher-ups to bestow you a weapon cultivation manual. Weapon. Xiao Han frowned. According to the rules of Cloud Rain sect, once a disciple reached marrow refinement, he would have the right to learn and use weapons. This experience had made Xiao Han deeply understand that with a suitable weapon in hand, one's combat power would increase by several times. Xiao Han, listen to me. Under normal circumstances, cultivating a weapon is slightly more difficult than cultivating fist, leg, palm and finger techniques. After all, it is easier to control fist, leg, palm and finger techniques. However, weapons are external objects. To cultivate it to the acme of perfection and wield it like a finger, one would require a deep comprehension. Furthermore, weapons include sword chi, sword force, sword intent, saber chi, saber force and saber intent. These are extremely mysterious but can multiply one's combat strength. It's even more difficult to cultivate them, one of the principals explained patiently. Xiao Han, let me put it this way. Those who can use weapons exquisitely and reach the acme of perfection are all experts. Their combat strength is extremely terrifying. Even the top 3 of the previous outer sect disciple ranking competition. Apart from being skilled in fist and leg techniques, they have also mastered their own sword techniques, saber techniques and so on. The number 1 of the outer sect, Shui Jianfeng, has even comprehended a bit of sword intent that can destroy the void force. His combat strength cannot be evaluated by normal standards. He is a genius who had a fortuitous encounter. Shui Jianfeng, sword intent. Xiao Han frowned slightly. However, his mind was extremely strong and he was as steady as a rock. After hearing the three principals' high evaluation of his enemy Shui Jianfeng, there was no shadow or fear in his heart as he replied calmly, "That's right. If you have a weapon, at least killing demons will be more advantageous than fighting with your fists." So, Xiao Han, in terms of martial technique manuals, are you going to choose a weapon manual? One of the principals asked. Yes, as the three principals have said, I will choose a weapon manual, Xiao Han nodded. In terms of fist techniques, he already had the Son of Heaven's fist. However, he knew nothing about weapons. It was time for him to learn about weapons. Alright. So, Xiao Han, think about it now. Which weapon should you cultivate? One of the managers said seriously. You can't choose a weapon randomly. You have to choose a weapon that suits your temperament. For example, you can't choose a sword just because you like it. Maybe your temperament is compatible with a saber. Also, sabers and swords are known as the two greatest weapons in martial arts. However, they are also the most difficult to cultivate. Among the 18 types of weapons and the 10 greatest weapons, Xiao Han, how you choose a weapon is not based on your preferences. You have to choose the one that suits you the best, the one that can bring out the most power. Do you understand? For example, the number 1 outer sect disciple, Shui Jianfeng, was born with a deep understanding of the sword Dao. He created his own way and cultivated sword skills. He made tremendous progress as if he was born for the sword. However, if he were to learn the saber or the staff, he would never be able to achieve what he has achieved today. I understand. Xiao Han nodded. Then Xiao Han, we will take you to the armory of our mountain. Among the 18 types of weapons and the 10 greatest weapons, you have to carefully comprehend them. Use your spirit to feel and understand them. See what weapon you have the most affinity with and what weapon suits your temperament the most. The three principals said eagerly, after choosing a weapon, we will report it to our superiors and receive a weapon manual. Okay. Xiao Han was also a little eager. P.S. Everyone, guess what weapon the protagonist has the most affinity with. Chapter 51. Without stopping, the three leaders brought Xiao Han to the armory on the mountainside for him to choose a weapon. Xiao Han was very clear that once he had a weapon his combat power would increase by a lot. At the same time he would have another trump card to defeat his enemies. As a matter of fact, Xiao Han's trump cards were still very few. The two moves of the Deadwood treasured record would be slightly strenuous against someone like Jing Shan. Only the two moves of the Son of Heaven's Divine Fist were presentable. The indestructible golden body was a passive defensive technique. His biggest trump card, the Demon God's Palm, could not be exposed. It seems that what I have learned is really limited. Participating in this year's Outer Sect ranking competition is a competition of strength and trump cards. If I reveal too much of my strength in the competition, my opponents will be on guard. Xiao Han understood. Cultivating more martial skills is the way to go. As for choosing a weapon, Xiao Han subconsciously wanted to choose a sword. There was no other reason. Back in the small town, Senior Martial Brother Fang's peerless sharpness could cut through everything. It was too cool, too fierce, too domineering. Senior Martial Brother Fang was the strongest person Xiao Han had ever seen with his own eyes. Naturally, Xiao Han wanted to imitate him. If one day I can be like Senior Martial Brother Fang, carrying a sword on my back and going to a small town full of demons by myself. With a single sword I can destroy the town and kill all the demons. How cool would that be? TSK. Xiao Han's mind started to wander. However, he quickly remembered the warning of the three leaders. Choosing a weapon must not be based on personal preference. If he did not choose the right weapon, it would be the same as marrying the wrong man. It would be a waste of time and energy. The loss outweighed the gain. Alright, the three leaders, how can I choose a weapon that matches my temperament and is fated to be with me? Xiao Han tilted his head and asked. Right now, Xiao Han could be said to be the favorite of the three leaders and was highly regarded. Therefore, they would answer Xiao Han's questions. Xiao Han, your question is very mysterious. It could even be said that it could only be understood and not conveyed. To put it simply, when you're faced with all kinds of weapons, there will always be one that makes you feel very close to it. You'll have to choose a weapon by yourself. In any case, we have plenty of time. When we reach the armory, we'll leave you alone. You can try holding each weapon in your hands and see if there's a different feeling, one of the managers replied. Then the storage ring on his right index finger flashed with a dim light. Suddenly, a weapon appeared in the manager's hand. This weapon flickered with a dim light and gave off a cold aura, but its shape was extremely peculiar. This weapon was 6 feet long, with crescent-shaped blades of the same length on both ends. There were 3 small iron rings on the back of the saber, which made a rustling sound when it was swung slightly. The handle was made of hard wood, and the handle was in the middle of the blade with ribbons on it. This is a saber? Or what? Xiao Han had never seen such a strange weapon before. Xiao Han, this is my unique weapon, the Cosmic Lunisolar Saber. In today's world, there are very few martial artists who know how to use this weapon. When the manager looked at the weapon in his hand, his eyes shone with a very strange expression, as if he was looking at a friend. He gently stroked the surface of the saber and said with a faint smile, When I was young, I wanted to choose a heavenly halberd or a heavy weapon like a big axe or a big hammer. However, when I was choosing a weapon in the armory, I didn't know why, but I suddenly found this Cosmic Lunisolar Saber in the corner. Once I picked it up, I couldn't bear to put it down. It was as if I knew that this fellow was destined to accompany me for the rest of my life. Haha, Situ, this Cosmic Lunisolar Saber of yours is very powerful, and its trajectory is tricky. When you use it, it feels like the wind is blowing pear blossoms, and your whole body is covered with sabers, with no openings to exploit. Another manager said with a smile. Oh, 3 managers, this disciple seems to have understood something. Xiao Han nodded thoughtfully. At this time, the 3 managers had already brought Xiao Han to the armory halfway up the mountain. On the old modeled iron door, there was an iron lock, which gave off a fierce and chilling feeling. Xiao Han, this is the key to the armory. Go in and choose yourself, don't be anxious. Take your time. You must choose well. In addition, all the weapons in the armory are made of ordinary fine iron. There are no precious weapons. It is even more impossible to have ancient weapons. However, they are all made by the hands of skilled craftsmen. Compared to the low-quality weapons in the Jianghu, they are several times better. One of the managers handed the key to the armory to Xiao Han. Alright, this disciple will go in and choose a weapon now. Xiao Han walked over in 2 or 3 steps, unlocked the lock and pushed with his hand. The heavy iron door opened with a sound. Immediately, Xiao Han's vision blurred, and he felt a burst of cold air rushing towards him. His hair stood on end. Looking closely, the armory had more than 10 rows of weapon racks arranged in an orderly manner. The racks were filled with a dazzling array of weapons. Although they were all ordinary weapons, they gave off an intimidating feeling. It gave off the feeling of a powerful army conquering the country. Xiao Han hurriedly walked in and closed the iron door. Looking around, he saw that the racks were filled with all kinds of weapons. There was the most common 3-foot sword, 4-foot sword, 7-foot sword, Meridian Mandarin duck dual swords, thick-back saber, ghost-head saber, willow leaf saber. There were also long spears, long sticks, hooks, forks, whips, maces, hammers. A weapon rack was filled with all kinds of strange weapons. Below each of the strange weapons was a description. Water splitter, wind flame wheel, 5-10 direction saber, sun and moon universe saber. There was a complete range of weapons and everything was there. There are so many weapons, which one should I choose? Xiao Han frowned. He could not decide. Subconsciously, Xiao Han walked to the front of the sword-type weapons rack, and directly took out the most commonly used 4-foot cyan steel sword and held it in his hand. The sword's blade glowed like a clear spring, and it gave off a feeling of being able to cut through hair. However, when Xiao Han held this sword, he did not feel any sense of familiarity. Instead, it gave off a kind of lousy feeling and was very uncomfortable. Could it be that I am really not suited to use a sword? Xiao Han sighed and put the sword away. Then he strolled around the armory, looking here and there, trying out all kinds of weapons in his hand, trying to find the familiar feeling that the few managers had mentioned. A full 2 hours passed. Saber, spear, halberd, staff, even some strange weapons. Xiao Han took them and waved them around. However, he could not find that mysterious feeling of familiarity. It can't be? Could it be that I, Xiao Han, am destined to be empty-handed for the rest of my life? How boring would that be? Xiao Han felt a headache coming on. Impossible. I, Xiao Han, should be able to find a suitable weapon. Xiao Han racked his brains and his mind quickly turned. The next moment, got it? Xiao Han's eyes lit up. Suddenly, Xiao Han sat cross-legged and emptied his mind. His eyes seemed empty, as if he was thinking but not thinking. The surroundings suddenly became extremely quiet. Xiao Han had actually entered a state of enlightenment. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, Xiao Han clearly felt that in the armory that displayed the 18 types of weapons and the 10 great weapons, there were a few weapons that seemed to have established a very strange connection with his mind. They were spear-type weapons, axe-type weapons, saber-type weapons, and hammer-type weapons. Just these 4 weapons. As for the others, such as swords, whips, and staffs, they had no connection with Xiao Han's mind. They were as still as stagnant water. It seems that my temperament should be more compatible with the spear, axe, saber, and hammer. As for the way of the sword, I am afraid it is not fated with me. I do not have this kind of subtle spiritual connection with the sword. It seems that if I force myself to practice the way of the sword, it will end with a grievance, and I will not be able to obtain its essence. Xiao Han stood up. Fortunately, there are spear, axe, saber, and hammer for me to choose from. Xiao Han directly walked over and first held a long spear in his hand. Now that Xiao Han had opened up his mind, and under the penetration of his mental strength, he had established a connection with these 4 weapons that could only be understood, but not expressed. Therefore, with the long spear in his hand, his heart also palpitated. In fact, Xiao Han did not know that he had already been in the armory for a few hours. The sky had already darkened and night had fallen. Outside the armory, it seems that Xiao Han has not found the most suitable weapon for himself. This young man is calm and has a firm will. I don't think he will casually choose a weapon. Alright, let's go back first. We will come back tomorrow. A manager said with a smile. Let's go. Let Xiao Han choose slowly. There is no rush. Don't rush him. Choosing a weapon is not a trivial matter. Inside the armory, Xiao Han spent a few more hours trying out spears, axes, sabers, and hammers. However, he was unable to differentiate between any of the 4 weapons. This caused Xiao Han to once again fall into a whirlpool where he had to make a decision. These 4 weapons seem to be the same to me. What I need to do is to close my eyes and randomly choose one from the saber, spear, axe, and hammer. Xiao Han touched his nose. Wait! Suddenly, a ray of spiritual light flashed into Xiao Han's mind. Xiaohan immediately held the long spear in his hand. With a thought, the Emperor's great power suddenly broke through the air. As the energy surged, Xiaohan wore the Emperor's robe and looked down on the world. He was insufferably arrogant. As he looked down, the wind and clouds surged. His entire temperament had completely changed. Under the support of the Emperor's great power, the long spear did not have any special reaction. Xiaohan directly threw the long spear away. Then he changed to the axe. Under the Emperor's great power, the axe seemed too mediocre. Then it was the hammer. The hammer even seemed to have some repulsion with the Emperor's great power. Finally, it was the saber. Xiaohan held the saber in his hand, and the Emperor's great power spread unrestrainedly. Suddenly, buzz! The blade of the ordinary-looking saber actually let out a light whistling sound. A sharp ray of light shone from the saber. What? The saber and the Emperor's great power are extremely compatible. Xiaohan was shocked. In an instant, the Emperor's great power actually had a feeling of fusing into the saber in Xiaohan's hand. What? The saber is moving? Xiaohan's eyes focused and saw that the saber in his hand was slightly throbbing. At this moment, the saber seemed to have been given a life. A kind of domineering aura. A kind of sharpness. Ah, saber. I know. Saber like the Emperor. Saber like the Emperor. Xiaohan seemed to have gone mad. The saber is domineering and direct. There is no sword soul-stirring. There is no spears valiant and formidable. There is no blade's craftiness. Only the white saber enters and the red saber comes out. Delightful. Decisive killing. I, Xiaohan, have finally found the most suitable weapon for myself. It is the saber. From now on, I, Xiaohan, will focus on the Tao of the saber. I want to be a peerless saber user. With a thought in his mind, Xiaohan waved the saber in his hand and slashed with the Emperor's great power. A faint saber chi directly shot up to the sky. Pooh! A roof tile in the armory was sent flying. It was already the morning of the next day. The three managers came to the armory and chatted while waiting for Xiaohan. Shockingly, pooh! A piece of roof tile was blown away by the chi and shattered into pieces in the air, scattering in all directions. What? That looks like saber chi. What is going on? One of the managers was shocked. That's right, it is saber chi. Although it is very faint and weak, I am sure that it is saber chi that can only be produced by a saber user. Also, this saber chi contains a faint intent realm, like the Tao of the Emperor and his subjects. Another manager's eyes shone with a strange light. He squinted his eyes and said with a trembling voice, "There is a rumor in the Jianghu that only natural saber users will have this kind of situation when they hold a saber for the first time in their lives. This kind of person cultivates the Tao of saber and improves at lightning speed. It is as easy as eating and drinking." Xiaohan. Could it be? Let's go. Let's go in and have a look. Quick. This is a big matter, not a small matter. Inside the armory. It can't be? Just now there seemed to be a burst of saber chi. Under the influence of the Son of Heaven's great power, this saber really came to life as if it had its own dignity. Xiaohan's mind was greatly shaken, and he quickly withdrew the Son of Heaven's great power. He then took a few deep breaths, suppressed his excitement, and walked out with his saber in hand. As soon as Xiaohan walked out of the armory, the three managers bumped into him. When they saw the saber in Xiaohan's hand, they had the illusion that the saber and the man were made in heaven. "Xiaohan, you really chose the saber," one of the managers said with a serious expression. "Xiaohan, I am asking you now. You must answer me seriously. This matter is very important." "What is it?" Xiaohan was shocked. "Have you never practiced the Tao of saber in your life and never used a saber?" The manager stared at Xiaohan without blinking. "No, absolutely not. Absolutely not." Xiaohan nodded solemnly. "Then why did a saber chi burst out from the armory? You should know that all the sabers in the armory are ordinary iron sabers. It is impossible for them to produce saber chi. Moreover, you have never practiced the Tao of saber." The manager's expression was extremely nervous. "Oh. When this disciple was holding this saber, I felt a very mysterious feeling. It was very subtle. A light hum burst forth from the saber's body, and a stream of saber chi inexplicably slashed out." Xiaohan pretended to be deaf and acted dumb as he spoke. The Emperor's aura could not be casually mentioned. A natural-born saber user. The three managers screamed at the same time. Their breathing was extremely heavy. "Managers, what is going on?" Xiaohan pretended to be terrified. "All right, Xiaohan, you don't need to ask about this. In short, you will achieve great things in the Tao of saber. You might even be able to comprehend the 1 in 10,000 saber intent. One of the managers said with a trembling voice. Xiaohan, you should choose the saber. We will report this matter. Don't worry, there are plenty of saber manuals for you to choose from. I'm not afraid of not having any saber manuals for you, I'm just afraid that you won't want to learn. I will choose the saber. Xiaohan said smoothly. The heavens have pity on us. The three of us have been in charge of this peak for many years. We have been mediocre and have not nurtured any outstanding talents. Who would have thought, we actually produced such an outstanding talent like Xiaohan. And he is a rare genius in the Tao of Saber. That's great. One of the managers even had tears rolling in his eyes. Alright Xiaohan, put away your saber now. When you come back, I will get someone to send a few good sabers to your courtyard. Now you will come with us. One of the managers said to Xiaohan. Where are the three managers bringing me to? Xiaohan was stunned. To observe the ceremony. One of the managers' face turned slightly ugly. Today, a few outer sect managers of the Valley of Medicine Masters are coming to our sect mainly to discuss the marriage between the number 1 genius of the Cloud Rain sect, Shui Jianfeng, and a female outer sect disciple of the Valley of Medicine Masters. The manager of the peak that Shui Jianfeng is at is very arrogant. He has already invited the managers of the 10 peaks of the outer sect and some elite outer sect disciples to observe the ceremony. He is just showing off. You should know that to be able to marry a female disciple of the Valley of Medicine Masters is an extremely glorious thing. Shui Jianfeng. Xiaohan's eyes turned slightly cold. The three managers did not notice the change in Xiaohan's expression. One of the managers continued. Let's go Xiaohan. Come with us to have a look. You can also witness the peerless elegance of the number 1 outer sect disciple of the Cloud Rain sect, Shui Jianfeng. It will broaden your horizons. Alright, I will go and have a look. Xiaohan replied softly. He lowered his head and a murderous look flashed across his eyes. He thought to himself, Shui Jianfeng, I have seen him before. Peerless elegance? One day I'll beat him to a pulp in front of everyone's eyes. I will let everyone witness his peerless elegance. Chapter 52. To attend the ceremony. The peak that Shui Jianfeng was at was a new force in the outer sect of Cloud Rain sect. Putting aside Shui Jianfeng, who was publicly acknowledged as the number 1 genius in the outer sect, in the previous outer sect disciple ranking competition, that peak even took 5 of the top 10 spots. It was no small matter. It was the true number 1 peak in the outer sect. Like a lone peak. Let's go to the so-called number 1 peak in the outer sect to take a look. It's not a bad thing. I also want to see for myself how powerful the outer sect disciples on that peak are. Xiaohan temporarily put aside his grudge with Shui Jianfeng. His expression relaxed and he became relaxed. Xiaohan followed the 3 managers to the foot of the mountain. At this moment, there were already dozens of outer sect disciples gathered there, chatting in groups of 3 to 5. Today, Shui Jianfeng is going to be engaged to a female outer sect disciple of the Medicine King Valley. I'm so envious of him. This is a great blessing. Forget it, there's no point in being envious. People like Shui Jianfeng are born winners. Not only is his cultivation extraordinary, he is also favored by the Medicine King Valley. People like him will ascend to the true Qi realm sooner or later. Once he reaches the true energy stage, the gap between us and him will be like the distance between the heavens and the earth. The difference in our levels of life will be like the difference between heaven and earth. Jealousy. I'm jealous. I can't wait for this marriage to fall through. Shui Jianfeng is always cold like the king of heaven. I've long found him an eyesore. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense. Such words are disgraceful. If word gets out, you'll die without a burial place. Cough cough. One of the managers coughed loudly. The outer sect disciples who were gossiping kept quiet and said obediently. Greetings, 3 managers. Greetings, senior brother Xiaohan. Now, Xiaohan had indeed gained the recognition and respect of this peak. Is everyone here? A supervisor nodded his head in a dignified manner and immediately asked. Alright, let's go to the ceremony together. Remember, when you're in someone else's territory, be careful what you say. Don't speak nonsense. Today is Shui Jianfeng's joyous occasion. I also know that all of you harbor great jealousy in your hearts, but you absolutely must not say it out loud. It's best to say a few words of congratulations. Even if it's an act, you guys have to act well for me. This manager is an interesting person. Xiaohan laughed involuntarily. As a matter of fact, Xiaohan also knew that the 3 managers were extremely disgusted by Shui Jianfeng's wedding. However, he had no choice but to say a few dry words of congratulations. After everything was settled, the three managers took the lead and led Xiao Han and a large group of outer court disciples towards the mountain peak where Shui Jianfeng resided. Everyone's physical bodies were extremely strong. As they walked, the wind whistled. They strode like shooting stars, crossing mountains and rivers as if they were walking on flat ground. Not long after, they arrived at the foot of a verdant mountain peak. Xiao Han took a look. This mountain peak was extremely steep and majestic. It towered majestically, white clouds drifting about the mountainside, immortal energy rising. At this moment, there were many people coming up the mountain in an endless stream. At the foot of the mountain, there were a few young disciples wearing outer court uniforms in charge of receiving them. These young disciples all had an armband embroidered on the right arm of their robes. The words "First Peak of the Outer Court" were clearly written on the armband. Their expressions revealed a strong sense of superiority. They were high-spirited and dazzling. Moreover, their faces were filled with a joyous red glow. The disciples of this peak really know how to act. Xiao Han only sneered in his heart. The three managers brought Xiao Han and the others over. The disciple in charge of receiving the disciples of this peak did not seem to take them seriously and said casually, "Oh, the managers have brought the disciples here? Welcome. You're most welcome. Today is my senior brother Shui's joyous occasion. Thank you all for coming to attend the ceremony. Please go up the mountain. Please forgive us if we are disrespectful." After saying that, the disciples no longer paid attention to Xiao Han and the others. It was obvious that they were careless and half-hearted. The faces of the three managers immediately turned gloomy, but they did not flare up. One of the managers said indifferently, Good. The first peak of the outer court is indeed awe-inspiring. Even the disciple in charge of receiving the disciples is so arrogant. Very good. Let's go." The group directly went up the mountain. Along the way, Xiao Han saw that the trees on both sides of the mountain path were covered with ribbons, red silk, and red lanterns. It was simply decorated with a joyous and auspicious atmosphere. They really are having a joyous occasion. Xiao Han licked his lips. At the peak of the mountain, the huge white jade square was already crowded with people. In the middle of the white jade square, a temporary high platform was built. A red carpet was laid out, lanterns were decorated, and a row of armchairs was placed on the platform. At this moment it was empty. No one sat on it. With the temporary high platform as the center, there were a total of 11 square formations in all directions. In each of the square formations, tables and chairs were arranged in an orderly manner. In one of the square formations there were many people. There were at least 1,000 people. On the right arm of their robes, the words "First Peak of the Outer Court" were written. They were all gathered together in a joyous atmosphere. Between their brows, there was pride and superiority. This was the square formation of the host. The remaining 10 square formations, in each square formation, there were only a few dozen people. There was another square formation, but it was empty. "Let's go. Our seats are over there." The three managers brought Xiao Han and the others to the empty square formation. The host did not come to receive them. They found their own seats and sat down. Xiao Han sat beside the three managers. "Xiao Han, look. There are many people here today, right? Of the 11 square formations, 10 of them are the positions of our outer court's 10 peaks. The last one is an inner sect disciple that was invited." One of the managers introduced to Xiao Han. Xiao Han focused his eyes on the square formation where the inner sect disciples were seated. That square formation had the least number of people. There were only a few dozen people. He could see that the dozen people were all heroic and had an extremely terrifying aura. Some of them had their eyes closed, some were drinking tea, some were standing proudly, some had an unruly aura, some were as fierce as ancient beasts. These dozen people all had an aura that did not lose to Hua Rong, who was killed by Xiao Han. They were all powerful people who were half a step away from true Qi. TSK. The representatives from the inner sect are all experts who are half a step away from true Qi. This Shui Jianfeng has quite a reputation. Xiao Han could not help but sigh. Yes, Xiao Han, you should know that Shui Jianfeng is the #1 genius of the outer court. He stands out from the crowd. Moreover, his sword Dao cultivation is superb. He has already touched the threshold of the 1 in 10,000 sword intent. Sooner or later he will rise to become a great figure. Therefore, it is natural for the inner sect disciples to be on good terms with him. I even heard that Shui Jianfeng has a relationship with a few true Qi realm direct disciples. One of the managers said to Xiao Han. His expression was very sullen, but he quickly smiled and said, However, Xiaohan, with someone like you on our peak, we will not be at the bottom of the outer court's 10 peaks. We three old things believe that your achievement in the Tao of Blade will not be lower than Shui Jianfeng's Tao of Sword. You'll make our peak proud. I will do my best. Xiaohan nodded. Then Xiaohan looked around and casually glanced at the square formation occupied by the 10 peaks of the outer sect. Xiaohan discovered that there were also some experts among the 10 peaks of the outer sect. Their auras were like wood and stone, unfathomable. Suddenly, Xiaohan saw that there were dozens of people sitting in one of the square formations of the outer sect. At this moment, all of them were staring at him with hatred. Xiaohan realized that he had seen a few of them before. They were the followers who were with Zheng Shan that day. However, no matter how he looked, Zheng Shan was not in that square formation. Zheng Shan, that bastard, is probably recuperating. Xiaohan smiled and touched his nose. Suddenly, an imposing young man stood up from the square formation, carrying a heavenly halberd on his back. He walked like a dragon and walked like a tiger, his eyes like a tiger and his eyes like an eagle. He actually walked directly towards Xiaohan. As this young man walked, sand and dust were floating in the air. His whole body was filled with sharp metal-aged qi, stern and fierce. His face was covered with frost as he walked straight in front of Xiaohan. The three managers' faces turned cold. You're Xiaohan, right? The young man curled the corner of his mouth and showed a hint of disdain. I heard that you are very arrogant. You even dare to insult and provoke my junior brother Zheng Shan? Very good, very good. I also heard that you used to be a small fry, a living target. You had a fortuitous encounter and were promoted to the outer sect. Today is Shui Jianfeng's big day. It is not suitable to see blood. I will give him face and let you go. But you are on your own. As soon as he finished speaking, the three managers' faces changed. They were so angry that they choked and could not speak. And the dozens of outer sect disciples on Xiaohan's peak all had blood rushing to their faces. They stared at the young man angrily. Only Xiaohan's expression did not change. His eyes were as deep as an ancient well. Xiaohan picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. Are you done? If you are done, get lost. I have a bad temper and I can't stand mad dogs barking in front of me. What? The young man was speechless. His face immediately turned the color of a pig's liver. His body trembled and a murderous aura gushed out. The three managers and the outer sect disciples behind Xiaohan were also shocked. They did not think that Xiaohan would be so domineering and domineering. The moment he opened his mouth, he would say such harsh words. From all directions, some people also turned their attention to him. Just as the young man was about to explode, suddenly, gongs and drums sounded. The music was so loud that the sky was filled with melodious music. A young man in a red robe, surrounded by a large group of people, walked over like the moon surrounded by stars. This young man was dressed very jubilantly. His forehead was full, his eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like the sea. From time to time, there would be sword qi surging in his eyes. As he walked, he gave off an arrogant aura. As soon as he appeared, he immediately became the focus of the crowd. Everyone's eyes turned to him. It was as if this person was born with the temperament of a leader. No matter where he appeared, he would be the center of attention. He was a person that was the center of attention. Shui Jianfeng. Xiaohan also swept his gaze over. The hatred in his heart immediately covered the sky and covered the earth. This high-spirited guy in front of him was the enemy who beat Xiaohan to death. This guy's aura is even stronger than when he appeared at the Stilt House. It seems that he had a great encounter. Xiaohan nodded slightly. They both cultivate the sword Dao, but Shui Jianfeng is more than a little stronger than Shangguan Yi from Mingjian Villa. This world was very big. There were as many martial artists as there were hairs on a cow. Every martial artist had their own encounter. Xiaohan unintentionally encountered a fortuitous encounter and changed his fate. However, Xiaohan believed that he was not the only one in this world who had a fortuitous encounter. This Shui Jianfeng in front of him must have had a great and secret fortuitous encounter. As soon as Shui Jianfeng appeared, the young man who had a fierce conflict with Xiaohan glared at Xiaohan and said while gritting his teeth, "I'll let you live for now. Come for it in the future." After saying that, he returned to his seat. Xiaohan, this is Zhu Yu, who was ranked 14th in last year's outer court ranking competition. He specializes in using the square sky halberd. His halberd technique is big and agile and he has a cruel nature. Once he attacks, he will cripple people. He's a ruthless person and he's very close to half-step true energy, one of the supervisors said in a low voice. No matter. When I learn the Saber Dao, the first person I'll kill will be this person," Xiao Han said fiercely. The three supervisors were shocked when they heard that. While they were talking, Xiao Han suddenly felt as if his skin was being cut by two invisible sword rays. His entire body was cold and his pores were open. He had goosebumps all over his body. Xiao Han raised his head and saw Shui Jianfeng walking towards him. "What? Shui Jianfeng is walking towards us?" The three supervisors were shocked. The focus of the crowd followed Shui Jianfeng's footsteps and finally landed on the area where Xiao Han was sitting. Xiao Han. Shui Jianfeng walked directly in front of Xiao Han with his hands behind his back and looked at Xiao Han with a condescending gaze. Xiao Han immediately stood up as well. The two of them faced each other. The crowd immediately quietened down. Everyone was doubtful. Not bad. You really did have a fortuitous encounter. A living target, a lowly person like a dog, actually leaped to become an outer court disciple. Moreover, I heard that you've been in the limelight recently. You didn't even lose to Jing Shan, Shui Jianfeng said indifferently. Xiao Han's heart was filled with killing intent. However, at this moment he had experienced many life and death situations. He had long since obtained a transcendent state of mind that was as indifferent as water. His expression was as calm as water. I, Xiao Han, can't be a living target for the rest of my life, right? The heavens are looking out for me and bestowed me with some fortuitous encounters. Shui Jianfeng nodded. That's fine. From now on, you should focus on your cultivation. However, remember, don't be too ostentatious. The martial Dao still depends on talent. Fortuitous encounters are only a matter of time. No one can rely on fortuitous encounters to achieve everything. Geniuses are geniuses. Mud is mud. With a fortuitous encounter, mud can't help a wall. Alright, that's all I have to say. Take care. With that, Shui Jianfeng turned around and walked towards the high platform in the middle of the square. Suddenly Xiao Han said in a clear voice, Shui Jianfeng, you are an outer court disciple. Right now, I am also an outer court disciple. What right do you have to scold me? One day I will, in front of tens of thousands of people, beat you up until your mother can't recognize you. Shui Jianfeng's shoulders twitched and his entire body froze. Chapter 53. The surroundings were dead silent. Out of the thousands of people present, none of them expected Xiao Han to talk back. A small fry who used to be a living target had entered the outer sect through a fortuitous encounter. Just because he was in the limelight, he dared to talk back to the number one genius of Cloud Rain sect, Shui Jianfeng. The most important thing was that this mountain peak was Shui Jianfeng's territory. Furthermore, today was Shui Jianfeng's wedding day. All the guests were here to congratulate him. Any inauspicious words would be considered a provocation. Xiao Han's words were like a reversal of the host and guest. He did not know what was good for him. He was courting death. Shui Jianfeng turned around slowly and looked at Xiao Han. Suddenly, with Shui Jianfeng's body as the center, the air rippled like water. In his eyes, faint golden sword chi surged, and a formless pressure enveloped Xiao Han through the air. Oh, Xiao Han, you want to challenge me? Shui Jianfeng's eyes were filled with anger and deep disdain. You dare to act so presumptuously on this mountain peak? At the next moment, thousands of sharp gazes locked onto Xiao Han from the host's camp. Every gaze was filled with a violent rage that could cut 1,000 pieces into pieces. It was as if they were real. The air was filled with a thick smell of gunpowder. The three managers of the mountain where Shui Jianfeng was had also walked out with cold expressions. They looked at Xiao Han sinisterly with killing intent brewing in their eyes. Under the layers of pressure, Xiao Han's expression was as calm as usual. He did not panic or fear. One must know that a viscera refinement realm martial artist facing the pressure from Shui Jianfeng and almost all the disciples of this mountain might have a mental breakdown. He might even go berserk on the spot and turn into a lunatic. But Xiao Han was fearless. He was facing thousands of people alone and his expression did not change. Furthermore, those with discerning eyes could tell that Xiao Han's calm and composed demeanor could not be faked. It was also impossible for him to be putting up a front. This kid actually has the feeling that he still has energy to spare. Interesting. The inner sect disciples who were at half-step true chi also started to pay attention to Xiao Han. It seems like this little fellow who was born as a living target has an inextinguishable will. Diske, this kind of bearing is rare and commendable. An inner sanctum girl with half-step true chi smiled faintly. I'm starting to appreciate his talent a little. However, this was Shui Jianfeng's territory after all. Acting atrociously like this was not giving him any face at all. Now let's see how to deal with the aftermath. Don't worry, there won't be a fight. The people from the Valley of the Medicine Masters will be here soon, a burly inner disciple said with his arms folded. Naturally, Xiaohan wasn't forcing himself. Ever since the battle at Crouching Bull Mountain and the bloody battle at Demon Town, Xiaohan's spirit and aura had become extraordinary. The pressure before Xiaohan was nowhere near as great as the pressure he felt from the seemingly endless loose demons back in Fiend Town. That was the true meaning of life and death. The current situation was just a small matter. Alright Xiaohan, enough is enough. The three leaders beside Xiaohan hurriedly gave Xiaohan a look. Although they were all extremely pleased that Xiaohan had talked back to Shui Jianfeng, they had no choice but to lower their heads and not push things too far. Thus they stepped forward to persuade him. Some of the leaders from the other peaks also took the opportunity to act as peacemakers and tried to persuade Xiaohan to make peace. Alright. Stop making a ruckus. What a scandal. Jianfeng, today is your big day. Don't argue with this Xiaohan anymore. That's right, Jianfeng. Let's all take a step back in terms of words. Who's that? Xiaohan, right? Don't be so stubborn. It won't do you any good if you continue to argue. Don't make a mistake. I think you're someone who has had some fortuitous encounters, but you're too immature. Stubbornness won't last long. If you continue like this, you'll die sooner or later. Jianfeng, don't bother with such a small fry. Who are you? First in the outer sect. Half-step true chi. And you've mastered the rare sword will. A heavenly prodigy. What is he? He's just an ant. Alright. It's a big day. Let's just leave it like this. There's no need to let such a lowly thing affect our mood. One of the leaders beside Shui Jianfeng said. At this moment, Xiaohan suddenly sat down. Finally, Shui Jianfeng gave Xiaohan a deep look before turning around and walking towards the temporary high platform. Xiaohan, don't be impulsive. When the three managers saw Xiaohan sit down, they heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, under the intimidating gazes of Shui Jianfeng and the thousands of disciples, the three managers were all flustered. It was also rare for Xiaohan to maintain such a calm demeanor. From this point, they were even more convinced that Xiaohan was a rare genius. Perhaps he wouldn't be any worse than Shui Jianfeng. Xiaohan suddenly said in a low voice. Three leaders, this disciple is not admitting defeat. This disciple doesn't dare to tarnish the prestige of our peak. It's just that this disciple doesn't want to fight a bitter battle with Shui Jianfeng. I don't want to be shaken to the core, I don't want to turn defeat into victory, I don't want to be entangled in a fight. This disciple only wants to make a deal with Shui Jianfeng in one go and directly cripple him. However, this disciple's current strength is not enough. Thus, this disciple is temporarily enduring. Hearing Xiaohan's words, the three leaders kept quiet out of fear. It turned out that Xiaohan wanted to instantly kill Shui Jianfeng. This kind of ambition made people raise their eyebrows. At this moment, one of the leaders from Shui Jianfeng's peak suddenly said in an indifferent tone. Brother Situ, Brother Zhou, Brother He, it was the three of you who deliberately instigated the disciples to come out and cause trouble, right? This little brother understands my three brothers' feelings very well. His three elder brothers were simply jealous. That's right. After so many years, my three brothers have been in charge of a peak in the outer sect. It's been a miserable time and the number of talents has withered. Now, seeing our peak flourishing like the sun in the sky, your hearts are going crazy with jealousy. That's why you painstakingly instigated that live target to cause trouble. Sai, this little brother understands my three brothers' feelings very well. It's human nature. I'm afraid that even if my three brothers worked hard for a few more decades, they would still not be able to cultivate a genius like Jianfeng who could marry the daughter of the Valley of the Medicine Masters? The daughter of the Valley of the Medicine Masters is a phoenix among men. Not just anyone can marry her. The leader laughed mockingly, flicked his sleeve and turned to leave. The faces of the three managers beside Xiaohan were flushed, but their eyes were filled with shame and grievance. They had no confidence to refute. Indeed, to be able to marry a female disciple of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was a very glorious thing. They could use it to boast about it. The dozens of outer sect disciples of this peak all lowered their heads sullenly. Their self-esteem had been greatly insulted. Xiaohan said in a low voice. Leaders, let's not stay here and make a fool of ourselves. Let's just leave. However, as soon as the words left his mouth, a few outer disciples of this peak rushed up from the bottom of the mountain with flushed faces and yelled out loudly. They're here. The people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters are here. Brother Shui. 3 leaders. The people of the Valley of the Medicine Masters are here. They're about to go up the mountain. Just as he finished speaking, the sound of a musical instrument came from halfway up the mountain. It was a song to welcome the distinguished guests. The melody was joyous, and there was also a hint of melancholy, representing the love between a man and a woman. Haha, they're finally here. Everyone, let's see what the beauty from the Valley of the Medicine Masters looks like. The square immediately became lively. Everyone raised their heads in anticipation. The stiff atmosphere between Xiao Han and Shui Jianfeng just now was instantly dissipated. Haha, Jianfeng, they're here. Hurry up and welcome them. The 3 leaders of this peak, with flushed faces, tidied up their appearances and smiled at Shui Jianfeng. The usually cold and arrogant Shui Jianfeng at this moment had a rare flash of tenderness in his eyes. He tidied up his robe and strode forward to welcome them. He was truly an indescribably heroic young man, full of ambition and high spirits. Flushed with success, seeing a garden full of flowers in a day, Shui Jianfeng and the 3 leaders headed to the mountain pass. Thousands of pairs of eyes on the mountain peak swept over in unison. Even Xiao Han and the others who were preparing to leave, craned their necks to look over. Not long after, a group of women walked up the mountain pass. At the head of the group were 3 middle-aged women, all dressed luxuriously, their auras smooth and flawless, without a speck of dust. Between their breaths, they revealed their extremely powerful physical body cultivation, half a step into the Qi stage. Their bodies exuded elegance and beauty, full of charm and charm. Although they were already in their 30s or 40s, they did indeed have a unique style, and the corners of their eyes were filled with a cold and inviolable arrogance. These were the 3 outer sect leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The thousands of eyes on the mountain peak were fixed on these 3 leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, with only one thought in their minds: so beautiful, so elegant. Haha, the 3 of you, how have you been? Welcome, welcome, the 3 of you have graced this peak with your presence. The 3 leaders beside Shui Jianfeng beamed with delight, their faces full of pride as they repeatedly exchanged pleasantries with the 3 leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Shui Jianfeng also bowed in greeting. However, the 3 leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters looked a little unnatural, with a hint of awkwardness. Is she wrong here? Shui Jianfeng looked up and asked. His eyes flashed with eagerness. Jianfeng, how are you? You are becoming more and more handsome. Your level of cultivation is also improving day by day. One of the leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters smiled and nodded, but his eyes flashed apologetically. Just then, behind the 3 leaders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, 2 stunning young girls appeared. Of these 2 girls, one was dressed in white, the other in red. Their beauty was breathtaking. The young girl in red was 16 or 17 years old, in the prime of her youth, with a delicate oval face and shallow dimples. She was as beautiful as a jade carving. Like a pearl or jade. There was a hint of bookishness in her temperament, but also a hint of quick-witted playfulness. The young girl in white had black hair that flowed like a waterfall. She was 17 or 18 years old, her skin was as white as snow, and her temperament was even more extraordinary. Like a fairy descending from the heavens, she made people forget about their worries. These 2 young ladies were like they had walked out of a painting scroll. They were so beautiful that it was enough to make one's head spin. Everyone present stared with their eyes wide open. The jealousy in their hearts towards Shui Jianfeng surged like waves. In fact, everyone felt that, even with Shui Jianfeng's looks and talent, he was still not worthy of either of these 2 young girls. As for Xiao Han, at this time he was also dumbstruck. His eyes were frozen and his mind exploded. No way? It's them? It turned out that these 2 young girls were Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue, who had gone through life and death together with Xiao Han in the demon town. Sigh. Xiao Han, have you been bewitched? Forget it, don't be jealous. Otherwise your heart will be enchanted. In the future, when your cultivation is successful, we will also think of a way to help you marry a female disciple of the Medicine King Valley. One of the managers patted Xiao Han's shoulder and said bitterly. At this moment, when Shui Jianfeng saw Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue, he immediately showed an infatuated expression and said in a low voice. Shirong, since we parted at the Medicine King Valley a few months ago, every time I think of your peerless beauty and extraordinary beauty, I can't eat or sleep in peace. Sigh, the pain of yearning is really not something that outsiders can understand. Come, Shirong, come with me. Today is our big day. Shui Jianfeng did not care about the small details and confessed his love in front of her. Furthermore, His tone and actions were like a male master inviting a female master. Shua. Big brother Shua. Suddenly, a trace of panic and unhappiness flashed across Lan Shirong's eyes. She subconsciously took a step back. Jing Yanxue immediately held Lan Shirong's hand and said in a sweet voice, "Manager, cough cough." The three managers of the Medicine King Valley all began to cough. Their expressions became more and more awkward. One of the managers seemed to have braced himself and stood in front of Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue to block them. Then he smiled and said, This, Jianfeng, my three old friends, about this matter. I was too rude. This marriage, we did not get Shirong's approval and unilaterally agreed to it. In the end, when we mentioned it to Shirong flatly refused. We are really sorry, we were too careless. Now we have specially brought Shirong here to apologize. Lan Shirong suddenly said. Shua. Big brother Shue, you are a young hero with outstanding charm. I admit that I am not worthy of Big brother Shue. This time I have specially come to ask Big brother Shue not to ask others to send gifts to me. I can't accept it. I also want to personally thank Big brother Shue for your kindness. With such a talent like Big brother Shue, in the future, there will be a woman who is thousands of times better than me who will marry Big brother Shue. Lan Shirong's words sounded polite, but the coldness and rejection contained within them was so cold that even a deaf person could hear it. Directly rejected. The thousands of people on the mountain peak were completely silent. At this moment, the beautiful and joyous decorations on the mountain peak had actually become a mockery. All the guests who came to watch the ceremony had also become a mockery. Shui Jianfeng himself was the biggest mockery. Shirong. Shui Jianfeng's face immediately turned red. Shui Jianfeng took a deep breath and his expression was gloomy. Shirong, do you mean that I am not worthy of you? My Cloud Rain sect is the number one in the outer sect, half a step to the true Qi realm. With the sect's great nurturing, it is only a matter of time before you ascend to the true Qi realm. Are you saying that I am not worthy of you? Shui Jianfeng's tone was overbearing. There was already a hint of anger from his embarrassment. Tisich, if you don't like me, then you don't like me. What's there to talk about whether you are worthy or not? My senior sister Shirong has never promised you anything. Jing Yanxue pouted and said with a glib tongue, someone is just thinking too much. What did you say? Shui Jianfeng said sternly. Enough, Jianfeng. Yanxue has always spoken like this. Even if you don't like it, don't be so fierce. The faces of the three leaders of the Valley of Medicine Masters stiffened and a flash of disappointment flashed across their eyes. They thought to themselves, this Shui Jianfeng was actually so ungentlemanly. Jianfeng, don't be rash. The three leaders beside Shui Jianfeng had an iron face. A slap in the face. At this moment, their cheeks were burning hot and painful. It was as if someone had slapped them hard on the face. Everything had been so grand, so many people had been invited, and so many people had been flaunted, but it had actually become a slap in the face. Sigh. My three old friends, Jianfeng, this matter we are in the wrong. We are willing to bear all the losses, the three leaders of the Valley of Medicine Masters said apologetically. At this moment, Jing Yanshua's eyes lit up. She seemed to have discovered some peerless treasure among the thousands of people on the peak. Her face suddenly turned red, but she could not control herself. She actually pulled Lan Shirong's hand and walked straight to a certain square formation on the peak. Shirong Yanxue, don't be presumptuous. Come back. All of you come back. The three leaders of the Valley of Medicine Masters hurriedly reprimanded. But Jing Yanxue turned a deaf ear to them and only cared about holding Lan Shirong's hand. Her eyes were fixed on a certain person, and her expression was both excited and charming. At this moment, Xiaohan was shocked. Just now his eyes met Jing Yanshue's. He knew that he had been discovered. Almost instinctively, Xiaohan immediately lowered his head and squeezed out, as if he wanted to escape. Jing Yanxue screamed, "Uncle! Stop right there!" The next moment, Lan Shirong also saw Xiaohan. She was wild with joy and also lost her composure and shouted, "Uncle! So you are a disciple of the Cloud Rain sect." As soon as she shouted, she quickly covered her mouth and looked left and right, blushing shyly for her momentary loss of composure. "Stop right there." Jing Yanxue and Lan Shirong rushed over, one on the left and one on the right, sandwiching Xiaohan in the middle. Xiaohan hurriedly used his hands to cover his face. Did you get the wrong person? Uncle. Jing Yanshua's eyebrows arched and she pursed her lips into a smile. Stop pretending. Even if you turn into ashes, we will still recognize you. Uncle, you are so bad. You lied to us from the beginning, and now that we have caught you, you lied to us again. Lan Shirong pouted. Everyone's gaze shifted over. The thousands of people were all stunned. Shui Jianfeng, the leaders beside him, and the 3 leaders of the Valley of Medicine Masters were also stunned. However, everyone noticed a problem. When the 2 girls faced Shui Jianfeng, their attitudes were cold, and Jing Yanxue even spoke sarcastically. But when the 2 girls faced Xiao Han, they were affectionate and gentle, with disdain in the corners of their mouths. What situation is this? The 3 leaders of the mountain peak where Xiao Han was at looked at each other. All right, stop fooling around. Xiao Han could not deny it and could only spread his hands. What a coincidence. Since you have already recognized me, I will not deny it. However, what happened that night, you should keep it a secret, What happened that night? The thousands of people present heard it clearly. Uncle, you took advantage of me, yet you are still hiding. We only asked about your background, yet you still kept your mouth shut. Jing Yanxue pouted. You took advantage of me and then ran away. Uncle, you are so bad. When did I take advantage of you? Xiao Han was a little flustered. Uncle, are you still not going to admit it? Jing Yanshua's eyes were filled with affection and her eyes were like water. She suddenly said in a low voice. You're taking advantage of me, you're taking advantage of me? Her voice was low and gentle. The advantage she was referring to was naturally the kiss she had given Xiao Han. But in the ears of others the meaning changed. I understand. The 3 leaders of the mountain peak where Xiao Han was at suddenly nodded at the same time. I finally understand completely. And I have already said that this child Xiao Han is a promising one. And after eating his fill he went far away, played along, got rid of that heartless thing. Amazing. Too amazing. I suddenly want to laugh. Ha, ha. The 3 leaders looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. The grievances and depression in their hearts were all vented in their laughter. The dozens of outer sect disciples of this mountain peak also felt elated and their gazes swept across the entire crowd. They were simply too arrogant. Still looking down on the people of our mountain peak, do you see what kind of person our senior brother Xiao Han is? What female disciples of the Medicine King Valley? They have long been taken by our senior brother Xiao Han. Shut up. Such vulgar words. A dog's mouth cannot spit out ivory. It should be said that the female disciples of the Medicine King Valley lost their chastity to our senior brother Xiao Han. But our senior brother Xiao Han pulled out his sword and left. Senior brother Xiao Han, from now on I see you as my idol. The thousands of people present all looked at each other. Now some things did not need to be said clearly, everyone was clear in their hearts. Although they did not want to believe it, the 2 female disciples of the Medicine King Valley had forgotten everything and grabbed Xiao Han, saying that they had been taken advantage of by Xiao Han that night. They had said it with their own mouths. Moreover, they had called him uncle left and right, so affectionate. Damn, uncle? So this Xiao Han kid likes to play this kind of game, really? Perverted. One of the inner disciples of the half-step True Chi gritted his teeth and said. However, I really have to give it to this kid. The female disciples of the Medicine King Valley are the most difficult to get, but he actually got 2 of them at the same time, and it seems like he wants to disassociate himself from them. It was these 2 beauties who kept pestering him. I have to give it to him. I have to give it to him. I also have to give it to him. Another inner disciple of the half-step True Chi said. The eyes of the 3 leaders of the Medicine King Valley were wide open in shock, their brains completely cramping up. Roar. Suddenly Shui Jianfeng let out a bestial roar, and the cuckoos and blood-weeping apes wailed in agony. They were so angry that they almost vomited blood, and without looking back they ran down the mountain. Chapter 54. A happy occasion was actually made into such a mess. Moreover, the focus of the entire scene had completely shifted to Xiao Han's side. Everyone could see Lan Shirong and Jing Yanshua's eyes were full of affection, their voices were soft, and they were chatting with Xiao Han in private. It was extremely intimate. The 3 managers of Medicine King Valley finally came to their senses. Just now Lan Shirong and Jing Yanshue had spoken indiscriminately. They were talking about what happened that night, and kept saying that they were taken advantage of. How could this be tolerated? The rules and regulations of Medicine King Valley had always been very strict. They could not allow their disciples to mess around outside and ruin their reputation. Immediately, the 3 managers' faces were covered with frost. Their delicate bodies flashed and flashed to Xiao Han's side, blocking between Xiao Han and the two girls. They stared at Xiao Han with sharp eyes that could see through everything. What? Viscera Refinement Realm? One of the managers frowned and her eyes flashed with strong disdain. Then she fiercely glared at Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue and angrily shouted. Shirong, Yanxue, what nonsense are you two talking about here? Presumptuous. That night, what happened between you and this young man? Tell me everything in full detail. You can't hide anything. All right, senior sister, take them back and carefully interrogate them. Another manager signaled with his eyes, thinking, senior sister is too impetuous, asking about this matter in public. What if she finds out about some romantic affair? Wouldn't our Medicine King Valley's reputation go down the drain? Jing Yanxue said repeatedly. That night, he disguised himself as an uncle and wanted to steal my and senior sister Shirong's flood dragon horse. We caught him in the act, but the flood dragon horse was still stolen by him. Jing Yanxue said seriously without even blinking her eyes. Xiao Han thought Miss Jing is so calm when lying. She really has a great future. Hearing Jing Yanshue's words, the three managers of Medicine King Valley all heaved a sigh of relief. So he only stole the horse. I thought. Forget it, Shirong Yanxue, you two immediately return to Medicine King Valley with us. You are punished to refine 1,000 furnaces of pills and are not allowed to leave the valley for 2 years. One of the managers said sternly. Manager, don't. Jing Yanxue said with a pale face. Lan Shirong was calm. She just frowned slightly and did not say anything. Young man. At this time, one of the managers looked at Xiao Han with disdain and said deeply. The female disciples of Medicine King Valley are not to be pursued by just anyone. Even the #1 genius of your Cloud Rain sect's outer sect, Shui Jianfeng, returned in failure. Shirong and Yanxue were among the female outer sect disciples of the Valley of Medicine Masters, with outstanding looks and natural beauties. Sect, we will not consider anyone below the true Qi realm. Young man, no matter what happened between you, Shirong and Yanxue, forget about it. Dragons don't live with snakes. Don't look for trouble and ask for trouble. Shirong and Yanxue are still young and inexperienced. They have just entered the Jianghu and haven't seen the world. That's why they are speaking to you slightly. In the future you will be completely filtered out in their hearts. Xiao felt. Xiao Han frowned. Shut up. Another manager glared. His pressure made Jing Yanxue and Lan Shirong speechless. Shut up. The other manager glared at them and his pressure enveloped them, causing Jing Yanxue and Lan Shirong to immediately shut their mouths. Shut up. Another manager glared. His aura shrouded Jing Yanxue and Lan Shirong. Let's go. The three Medicine King Valley managers were displeased. They were about to leave with Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue. Suddenly. Wait. Xiao Han said loudly. What else do you want to say? One of the Medicine King Valley managers looked at Xiao Han impatiently. He looked like a king looking down at a beggar. It's nothing. The river flows east for 30 years and the river flows west for 30 years. The vicissitudes of life are unpredictable. Don't bully a young man. True Qi realm, right? Good. One day I, Xiao Han, will reach the True Qi realm. At that time, I will visit the Medicine King Valley personally. With that, Xiao Han looked deeply at Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue. His determined eyes were filled with tenderness. Ha! Oh, wait until you reach the True Qi realm. The three managers said perfunctorily. They did not believe that Xiao Han would reach the True Qi realm one day. If you really reach the True Qi realm, the three of us will welcome you at the Medicine King Valley. When the time comes, I'll pour you some tea and apologize. It's not impossible. But I'm afraid we won't be able to wait for that day. The difference between the physical body realm and the True Qi realm was like the distance between heaven and earth. It was not something that could be achieved easily. The three managers of the Medicine King Valley left with Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue. Faintly, Xiao Han heard one of the managers say in a low voice, "Go back and check carefully. Rua Shirong and Yanshue's chastity has been destroyed. Immediately abolish their cultivation and expel them from the sect." Lan Shirong and Jing Yanxue looked back at Xiao Han with every step. Jing Yanxue in particular had tears in her eyes. Suddenly she gathered her courage and said, "Uncle, Yanxue will wait for you at the Medicine King Valley." "I will definitely come," Xiao Han said seriously. After the two girls were taken away, Xiao Han quietly stood where he was without saying a word. At this time, the three managers of Xiao Han's peak hurriedly walked to Xiao Han's side and said in a low voice, "Xiao Han, let's also slip away. The people here seem to be very unfriendly towards us. Ah. Xiao Han's gaze swept around and saw the thousands of outer sect disciples of the host square formation. All of them had eyes like jackals and wolves, fiercely glaring at him. It was as if they wanted to immediately draw their blades and attack him. It seems that they are indeed not very friendly. Let's go, let's go. Xiao Han also realized that something was wrong. He thought to himself, I have made Shui Jianfeng's happy occasion into an embarrassing one. Why would they still be friendly towards me? Immediately Xiao Han's group of people left in a hurry like sparks. They safely returned to the peak they were at. Phew. It was really dangerous just now. We were almost surrounded. One of the managers heaved a sigh of relief and immediately looked at Xiao Han with a smile. Xiao Han, you are very good. You have made us proud. Ha ha ha, whenever I think of Shui Jianfeng and those three old men's pale faces, I feel extremely carefree and comfortable. Ah. However, don't take the words of those three women from Medicine King Valley to heart. Just focus on your cultivation. Those from Medicine King Valley are always like this, arrogant and condescending. No matter. Xiao Han said indifferently. Three managers, this disciple is now focused on cultivation. Nothing can erase this disciple's will. After reaching the true energy boundary, this disciple will personally go to Medicine King Valley and take back the dignity that I lost today. Good. Xiao Han, go back and wait for a few days. We will immediately ask for a blade manual and marrow refining pill for you. One of the managers nodded and said solemnly. All right, Xiao Han, don't wander around during this period of time. Today you have completely fallen out with Shui Jianfeng. Not only did you steal his limelight, but you also made him lose face in public. That guy will definitely seek revenge. I am afraid that he will find trouble with you. This disciple understands. Xiao Han nodded slightly. Soon after, Xiao Han bid farewell to the three managers and returned to his own courtyard. In his room, Xiao Han sat cross-legged on his bed. In his mind, Lan Shirong and Jing Yenshua's smiles and frowns flashed past. Involuntarily, the corners of Xiao Han's mouth hooked into a faint and warm smile. Don't worry. I will definitely reach the true energy boundary and go to Medicine King Valley to look for you, Xiao Han said to himself. In the next moment, Xiao Han took out the bottle containing 20 leopard embryo marrow refining pills from his bosom. He opened the bottle stopper and poured out the pills one by one, placing them in his palm. Let's start refining the marrow. My current physical strength has reached 80 cauldrons, surpassing the average marrow refining martial artist. When I reach the complete marrow refining stage, how strong will my strength be? I'm really looking forward to it. Xiao Han picked up a leopard embryo marrow refining pill and put it into his mouth. On the mountain peak where Shui Jianfeng was. Shui Jianfeng's courtyard. At this moment in Shui Jianfeng's courtyard, the autumn wind was chilly and sword qi whistled. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. The outside world was warm and sunny, but in Shui Jianfeng's courtyard, there could be thunder and lightning at any moment, as if the heavens were angry. In the room, Shui Jianfeng sat upright on a carved wooden chair, his face as gloomy as water. On his forehead, a vein protruded and trembled non-stop. Three outer sect disciples in bright robes stood at the side with their hands at their sides, not even daring to breathe too loudly. The atmosphere in the room was extremely heavy, making people feel suffocated. Xiao Han. Suddenly Shui Jianfeng let out a furious roar. In the next moment, bang. A flower vase on a red sandalwood shelf in the corner was cut into pieces by the invisible sword qi, the porcelain pieces flying in all directions. Po, 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 po. The invisible sword qi twisted chaotically, completely crushing the porcelain pieces into fine powder. They scattered on the ground. While doing all this, Shui Jianfeng did not move at all. His entire body's qi did not leak out in the slightest. No one knew how he broke the flower vase through the air. Senior brother, calm down. Senior brother, calm down. The three outer sect disciples were so frightened that they immediately knelt down. Senior brother, your sword intent has reached the small success stage. Using the air as a sword, killing through the air is like blowing dust. You really are a sword Dao genius. Senior brother, why don't we get rid of that Xiao Han for you? That bastard has gone too far, he must be put to death by 1,000 cuts to vent his anger. Yes, senior brother, let's make a move and cripple him. Shui Jianfeng stood up with his hands behind his back. The air around his body fluctuated, turning into invisible sword qi that seemed to be able to cut through the void. Go cripple that kid now. Everyone will know that it was me, Shui Jianfeng, who did it. This kind of dog-like small fry, I can kill him 1,000 times with just a glance. Yes, senior brother. Compared to you, that bastard is simply a pig, a dog, a cow, or a sheep. The 3 outer sect disciples said submissively. Forget it. Tomorrow I will follow a few true disciples to the western region to kill demons, sharpen my spirit, and forcefully break through to the true Qi realm. Shui Jianfeng said proudly. Breaking through to the true Qi realm is of utmost importance. Moreover, going out for an adventure with the true disciples, there is a possibility of finding some ancient ruins and obtaining some heaven-defying fortuitous encounters. Xiaohan, that bastard, you guys help me keep a close eye on him. Monitor him well, but don't make a move. I will think of a way to slowly torture him. When the time comes, I will make him regret being born into this world. Chapter 55. After Xiaohan consumed a leopard embryo marrow cleansing pill, the pill turned into countless granules and adhered to his bones. It was very miraculous. Now let's see how well my bones can absorb these pill granules. This is the so-called root bone in the martial Tao. With a good innate root bone, the absorption is fast. Removing the impurities, the medicinal essence can seep into the bone marrow several times faster than normal people. If the root bone is bad, then there is no other way. One can only rely on hard work, practice hard day and night, and overdraft one's physical strength to speed up the absorption. Xiaohan was also clear. Not long after, Xiaohan swallowed a total of 20 leopard embryo marrow cleansing pills into his stomach. Countless granules covered a total of 80 of Xiaohan's bones. These 80 bones with medicinal essence attached to them feel numb. I can clearly feel traces of medicinal essence seeping into the bones. However, without a reference, I don't know how fast my bones absorb the medicinal essence. Is my root bone good or not? Forget it, don't think too deeply about this. Putting aside the root bone, I can't give up on hard work. There is still half a year before the outer sect disciple ranking competition. I must seize every moment to cultivate and not slack off. In terms of cultivation, I must put in more effort than anyone else. That way, I will be able to get a satisfactory return. For the next 3 days, Xiaohan was very low-key. He almost never left his house. His meals were all brought back by Cho from the canteen. In Xiaohan's storage ring there were a few sabers and even a saber manual. Thunder Crash Extermination Saber. This was obtained after killing Hua Rong. Xiaohan recalled Hua Rong's 1 man and 1 saber. He killed demons and devils in Willow Town. He was swift and decisive. His saber chi killed through the air as if he was taking something out of his pocket. Hua Rong's saber technique was also very impressive. Now that Xiaohan was determined to cultivate the saber Dao, he eagerly read the saber manual. After studying for half a day, Xiaohan had a basic understanding of this saber technique. The Thunder Crash Extermination Saber was the same as the Son of Heaven's Fist. To understand the essence of the saber force of the Thunder Crash Extermination Saber was actually very difficult. There was even the risk of death. The saber manual said that this saber technique had to be practiced when there was thunder and lightning. However, listening to the thunder, observing the lightning, and then practicing the saber could only be regarded as a beginner. To practice this saber technique to perfection, one must practice it in the midst of thunder and lightning. Their bodies must be in contact with the thunder and lightning, or even absorb the thunder and lightning into their bodies, using the thunder and lightning to temper the saber chi, and understanding the saber power in the thunder and lightning. Wouldn't he be struck to death if he guided the lightning into his body? Xiaohan laughed involuntarily. Although a normal physical body realm martial artist's body is tough and indestructible, it's impossible for them to let the lightning strike their body when there's a thunderbolt, right? If a bolt of lightning came down, he would probably be roasted to a crisp. Why the hell would I need to practice saber skills? No matter how strong a person's body is, it's impossible to contend against the supernatural power of nature, right? I reckon that Hua Rong has only seen the lightning and heard the thunder. He has only learned the basics. Xiaohan was certain of this point. Then a thought flashed through his mind. I have the indestructible golden body to protect me. Can I try letting the lightning strike me? Let's see if it can kill me. If it can't kill me, then this saber technique will have reached perfection. But soon Xiaohan temporarily gave up on this idea. After all, the 3 managers provided him with many saber manuals for him to choose from. There was no need to practice this thunderclap extermination saber technique. Putting down the saber manual, Xiaohan held a saber in his hand and walked around the courtyard, feeling the saber's concept. However, under the situation where he didn't use the Emperor's power, the connection between Xiaohan's mind and the saber in his hand wasn't very close, so he couldn't display the domineering saber power. On the contrary, once the Emperor's power was activated in an instant, the saber chi surged, and the ordinary saber would seep out a sharp and murderous aura. 3 days passed. The 3 managers sent a message to Xiao Han, asking him to go to the mountain peak. At the mountain peak, White Jade Plaza. The 3 managers had been waiting for a long time. After seeing Xiao Han, they immediately went up to him and asked about his well-being. Xiao Han, after resting for a few days, your aura has become more stable. Have you started to refine your marrow? The manager with the surname Situ patted Xiao Han's shoulder and said, Yes, this disciple started refining his marrow 3 days ago. However, I don't have enough elixirs and this disciple is a bit depressed. Xiao Han complained about being poor. It was unreasonable not to complain about being poor at this time. Xiao Han, you just entered the outer sect not long ago, so you definitely haven't saved up that many true martial coins. It's understandable that you are short of money. Another manager nodded and said, However, Xiao Han, we have reported your matter to the higher-ups. They also think that you are worth cultivating. You defeated Yang Lei and tied with Zheng Shan. The higher-ups have also completely grasped the matter, and they think that you are worth cultivating. This time, the higher-ups have specially given you something. Look, this is a bottle of 1,000-year black tortoise blood. After consuming it, the medicinal effect will spread to 150 bones. It is not a small matter, it is a sacred item for refining marrow. The manager solemnly took out a palm-sized jade-green medicine bottle from his bosom. Xiao Han, the sect is cultivating you. Yes. Xiao Han was extremely excited. The sacred medicine for refining marrow that covered 150 bones. Xiao Han had seen this 1,000-year black tortoise blood in an elixir store before. One bottle was worth 20,000 true martial coins. It was definitely not a small matter. Blessed by the heavens. The medicinal effect was even purer than the leopard embryo marrow cleansing pill. Xiao Han quickly took the medicine bottle and carefully placed it in his bosom. With this bottle of 1,000-year black tortoise blood and the medicinal effect of the 20 leopard embryo marrow cleansing pills, he would not have to worry about refining his marrow. The next thing to do was to train hard and even torture himself to overdraft his physical strength, so that his bones could absorb the medicinal effect to their heart's content. Xiao Han, next is to let you choose a saber manual. Manager Situ smiled and said, Xiao Han, listen to me. Our Cloud Rain sect is actually not known for saber techniques. The Cloud Rain sect's ultimate technique is the Cloud Rain True Chi. With a flip of the hand it can summon clouds and rain. It can stir the power of heaven and earth, overturn heaven and earth and suppress all things. However, this divine technique can only be practiced after reaching the True Chi realm. It is impossible to reach the physical body realm. Among the 5 major sects of Beacon Fire Empire, Mingjian Villa has tens of thousands of sword manuals and 10 great sword techniques. Ba Huang Temple focuses on the saber. Their Ba Huang 6 Directions Godly Saber technique is well known in the world. Medicine King Valley's 10 great secret medicines are world-shocking. Blazing Flame sect's God-Burning Palm is world-shattering. Then, the best saber technique in Beacon Fire Empire is in Ba Huang Temple? Xiao Han frowned. Theoretically, yes. A manager nodded seriously. However, our Cloud Rain sect's thousands of years of heritage is not to be underestimated. There are many saber manuals in the Martial Skill Pavilion. Of course, some saber manuals can only be practiced after reaching the True Chi realm. Then, the higher-ups will give you some saber manuals that are suitable for your current cultivation. You can take your time to choose. Alright, Xiao Han, you cannot be greedy when practicing saber techniques. Biting off more than you can chew. Every saber technique contains a different intent realm. If a saber user were to practice too many saber techniques rashly, their intents would clash and they might even go berserk. Back then, there was a True Chi realm saber user of our Cloud Rain sect. He was extremely talented and had mastered 7 saber techniques. In the end, his body exploded and he died. Therefore, the higher-ups have stipulated that you can only choose one saber technique this time. Alright, I'll choose one. Xiao Han nodded his head heavily. The 3 managers each took out a few saber manuals and handed them to Xiao Han. Xiao Han, we won't disturb you. Calm down and choose. Yes. Xiao Han received the saber manuals and sat down cross-legged, flipping through them slowly. Hurricane Saber Technique. Swift Saber, 13 slashes in a single breath. It's extremely powerful when the enemy is forced to defend. Compassionate Saber Technique. Filled with compassion, the saber force is gentle like the spring breeze and rain. It can influence the enemy and subdue the enemy without a fight. Star Refining Demon Slaying Saber. refined a different kind of starlight and infused it into the saber chi. It can destroy both ghosts and gods. Wood-burning saber technique. Born flames in the saber chi. Thunder extermination saber. Enhanced by lightning sweeping everything. Blood vengeance saber. Extremely murderous aura. 3-step saber technique. Blood must be seen within 3 steps. If you don't kill the enemy, you kill yourself. Cold moon saber technique. Feather saber technique. Mountain saber technique. 5 elements saber technique. Yin-yang 4 elephants saber technique. Shadow saber technique. There are too many saber manuals. My eyes are blurred from choosing. Xiaohan rubbed his eyes. The saber manuals in his hands each had their own strengths and weaknesses. Moreover, they all had different concepts. Xiaohan really couldn't choose at that moment. After choosing for a long time, there was only one saber manual left in Xiaohan's hands. The paper of this saber manual was yellow and wrinkled. It was wrinkled and dirty, emitting a foul smell. Xiaohan's heart skipped a beat. One should know that the 2 ultimate techniques that Xiaohan relied on the most, the indestructible golden body and the Son of Heaven's divine fist, were obtained from the tattered parchment. Therefore, Xiaohan had always been very interested in ancient martial technique manuals. Xiaohan was especially interested in the incomplete ones that no one cared about. On the title page of this saber manual, there were a few scribbled words. Saber scripture. Xiaohan carefully flipped open the soft and fragile title page. After a brief reading, he understood. Strictly speaking, this saber scripture was not a saber manual, nor was it a martial technique manual. It was the notes of a saber user. It mainly explained some theoretical knowledge of the saber Tao. For example, what saber chi was, what saber force was, and even its own understanding of the saber intent that could only be understood but not explained. Xiaohan flipped through a few pages. He was already very careful, but one of the pages was still damaged. The paper was already rotten. So, this thing is just a manual, a notebook. Although a lot of knowledge is helpful to the cultivation of the saber Tao and allows one to have a deeper understanding of the essence of the saber, it is after all not a saber manual. Moreover, it is too easy to break. I'm afraid that before I finish reading it, it will break into ashes after flipping through a few pages. However, just as Xiaohan was about to give up on this saber scripture, the strange thing that was dormant in his heart suddenly throbbed. What? Xiaohan's heart was shocked. Then a crisp crack sound burst out from his heart, like an eggshell breaking. It was a mysterious feeling of breaking free from the shackles and removing the seal. Not long after, Xiaohan's heart was beating at the same time, and heavenly music could be heard. Strange phenomena, auspicious clouds and heavenly flowers poured out from Xiaohan's heart. Of course, all these strange phenomena could only be seen by Xiaohan. Although the 3 managers were staring at Xiaohan, they could not detect anything strange at all. It was very strange. The next moment, the surface of the dilapidated saber scripture actually glowed with a divine light. In an instant, countless divine talismans, rays of light, and dazzling lights completely enveloped Xiaohan. The current situation was exactly the same as when Xiaohan obtained the indestructible golden body and the Son of Heaven's divine fist. This time, Xiaohan had experience and did not appear to be so panicked. However, the ecstasy in his heart was already rolling like waves. The heavens have pity on me. It seems that I have picked up a treasure again. Ah! Impressively, on the title page of the broken saber scripture, a few big, shining words appeared. Every word, every stroke seemed to contain an overwhelming saber intent. 7 fragments saber art. Good. This is it. Xiaohan's heart moved, and the strange phenomena in front of him temporarily disappeared. He stood up and said to the managers, "All right, I have chosen." The 3 managers walked over with big steps. "Xiaohan, which saber manual did you choose?" The 3 managers asked in unison. I choose this saber scripture." Xiaohan forcefully suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and said calmly, "What? Xiaohan, why did you choose this?" "This is not a saber manual, but a notebook written by a swordsman," one of the managers said doubtfully. "This saber scripture only describes some of the more basic knowledge of the saber Tao. Xiaohan, even if you choose the saber scripture, you will not be able to cultivate any saber techniques. You should choose another one. There's no need." "Masters, I've already chosen my disciple." "Don't worry, I am not a rash person," Xiaohan said seriously. The 3 managers looked at each other and finally sighed, accepting Xiaohan's choice. They thought to themselves, Geniuses are indeed unconventional and can't be measured by common sense. Ordinary people would never touch this saber scripture, but Xiao Han had chosen it. Moreover, it seemed that he treasured it very much. Alright, Xiao Han, the elixirs and that saber manual, I will treat this saber scripture as a saber manual. You have chosen them. How are you going to cultivate? Are you going to go into seclusion or something? One of the managers asked. Xiao Han had obviously made up his mind. I am going to leave the outer sect area and find a quiet place to cultivate in seclusion. On one hand I will train my marrow and on the other hand I will comprehend the saber Tao. Oh, where are you going to cultivate in seclusion? One of the managers could not help but ask. I'm sorry, managers. I will keep the place a secret for now. I will not tell anyone, Xiao Han said apologetically. All right. The three managers did not mind. Then go into seclusion and cultivate in seclusion. But don't forget to come back on time for the outer sect ranking competition in half a year. At that time, without you, our peak will lose a lot of its luster. Chapter 56. Before this, Xiao Han had already chosen a place for his seclusion. It was not in the outer sect. Of course, it was not outside of the mountain range. One had to know that the mountain range was thousands of miles wide, and there were many spirit mountains and immortal lands. However, in the huge mountain range there were also some peaks that were uninhabited, and it was full of barren hills and unruly rivers. Some of the river valleys even had primitive aborigines that lived there, forming their own tribes. There were also primitive forests that were overgrown. Some forests had fallen leaves, and after years of miasma, poisonous fog that could not be seen. If one accidentally entered, he would definitely die. Back when Xiao Han was a live target, he had gone to a peak at the edge of the mountain range. At the peak of this mountain, there was a huge waterfall that flowed down like a huge white dragon and into a river. The river flowed like a mountain torrent, and it rumbled all day long like a world-ending thunder. At that time Xiao Han was on this mountain peak and felt the entire mountain tremble. Thus, he fled in fear and did not dare to stay for long. But now, he suddenly had the idea to go into seclusion on this mountain peak. There's still half a year before the outer sect disciple ranking competition. It's imminent. Under the situation where I can't use the demon the Arch Palm, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to defeat Shui Jianfeng. Time doesn't wait for me. I have to go all out. I'll cultivate in the waterfall and destroy myself in the hopes that I can quickly digest the medicinal essence in my body and fuse it into my bones. Xiao Han returned to his room and sat cross-legged on the bed, consuming the bottle of 1,000-year mystic turtle blood. The majestic medicinal essence turned into granules and completely wrapped around the 150 bones in Xiao Han's body. However, the medicinal essence was too abundant. Even if his bones absorbed it for 3 to 5 years, it would not be completely absorbed. After drinking the medicine, Xiao Han went to the canteen alone and bought a large amount of dried meat, storing them in 2 storage rings. He then went back to take a few robes and left the outer sect peak silently. He did not even inform Acho. Senior brother Acho, I'll be in seclusion for half a year. I hope that you can cultivate well in this half a year and strive to ascend to the marrow refinement realm and master the deadwood collection. Once everything was prepared, Xiao Han traversed the mountains and headed towards the mountain peak he had chosen for seclusion. Now, Xiao Han's physical body was strong, and he could walk as if he was flying. He could climb mountains and cross rivers as if he was walking on flat ground. After a few hours, Xiao Han arrived at the mountain peak. Hong, 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 the roar of the mountain torrent and the rumbling of the waterfall shook the mountain to the point that it rustled and trembled, and the entire mountain actually had a terrifying feeling that it might disintegrate at any moment. However, the current Xiao Han was fearless in the face of such a dangerous environment. Xiao Han held a saber in his hand and chopped down some trees and vines in the forest. Behind a protruding rock, he hastily built a small thatched hut. Hee, for the next half a year I will build a hut here and live like a primitive man. Xiao Han looked at the small thatched hut he had built with satisfaction. Xiao Han had stored a lot of dried meat slices and steamed buns in his storage ring. This mountain peak was lush with trees. There were also a large number of fruit trees. There were even wild hares, wild boars, ho, and other wild animals. For Xiao Han there was no shortage of food. In the evening the night sky was clear. Xiao Han sat cross-legged on the rock in front of the thatched hut, a saber laid flat on his knees. In Xiao Han's hand he held the tattered saber scripture, with a pious expression. In an instant, buzz, waves of throbbing came from his heart. One after another, divine runes and rays of light swept out. Correspondingly, the rotten saber scripture, in his hand glowed with misty divine light. Fishes and dragons spread out, and it was a spectacular sight. 7 fragments saber art, 4 words that contained profound concepts and sharp saber chi floated in the air. Not long after, the divine light and rays of light that filled the sky were woven into a mystical cocoon of light. This time there were a total of 8 cocoons of light. Indestructible golden body, 100 cocoons of light. Son of heaven's divine fist, 7 cocoons of light. And the 7 fragments saber art, 8 cocoons of light. Poof, the first cocoon of light shattered. Densely packed words exploded out. Xiao Han scanned it with his mind and immediately read it. 2 hours later. So it turns out that the first cocoon of light derived from the 7 fragments saber art isn't a saber technique, but some basic knowledge of the saber Tao. However, this knowledge is extremely precise, like the morning bell and evening drum, and it is thought-provoking. Saber chi. Once the saber chi is released, it can kill from a distance. What is saber chi? Saber chi is when a saber user reaches a certain level of strength and reaches a certain speed when brandishing the saber. Thus, the force of the saber will shoot out from the saber, destroying everything in its path and killing the opponent immediately. Normally, when a saber user at the fleshly body realm slashes out a saber chi from a distance, its strength is equivalent to 1/10 of the user's physical strength. However, the faster the saber speed, the greater the strength, the stronger the penetrating power, and the more terrifying the lethality. To successfully cultivate saber chi, 2 conditions must be met. First, one's physical strength must reach 50 cauldrons or above. Second, the speed of brandishing the saber must not be less than 1/10 of the speed of sound. Speed of sound. Theoretically speaking, in one breath, which is 1 second, if one can slash 340 times, it is the speed of sound. In other words, in order to slash out saber chi that can injure people from a distance, one must at least slash 34 times in 1 second. 34 slashes in one breath. This. Xiao Han felt a headache coming on. Difficult, somewhat difficult. I didn't expect the first step of cultivating the saber Tao, cultivating saber chi, to be so difficult. The saber Tao isn't that easy to cultivate. However, Xiao Han's will was as firm as steel. He continued reading and comprehending. Saber force. The comprehension of the saber. When a saber user's comprehension of the saber reaches a certain level, their aura will become unstoppable and domineering. Just by standing casually, they will give others the feeling of a treasured saber being unsheathed. Furthermore, when the saber force reaches a certain level, one's gaze will be able to shoot out saber chi. This is no small matter. Saber intent. Saber intent corresponds to a swordsman's sword intent. It is the peak of the saber Tao that a saber user pursues all their life. 1 in 10,000. Once one comprehends saber intent, one will become the emperor of the saber. When saber intent is released, the wills of the other saber users in the surroundings will be drawn in, as though they are servants meeting their master, as though they are worshipping a god. If the heavens have feelings, saber intent is emotionless. Once saber intent is released, it will shatter the void and destroy all ghosts and gods. Initial mastery of saber intent. I can turn the surrounding air into saber chi, and with the speed of sound I can kill all living things as I please. Middle stage saber intent. No matter what it is, grass, wood, bamboo, stone, air, water, everything in the world can be used as a saber, and the speed of the saber exceeds the speed of sound. This realm is also known as saberless. It is the realm where saberless surpasses saberless. Saber intent has reached greater mastery. A natal saber chi has been born in my body, and I can kill with just a thought. It can lock souls from 1,000 miles away, and it can shatter space itself if I kill from 10,000 miles away. Saber intent godly mastery. Life saber chi mental energy saber intent battle will, and will are all brewed to the peak, cutting open the door to the saber realm that's close to nothingness, receiving the blessing of the ancient saber soul, and killing immortals and gods. Huff! The saber intent is too powerful. Once the saber intent is cultivated, it will be able to exterminate the 6 paths. Even ghosts and gods will not be able to predict it. Killing people who are of a higher cultivation level will be as easy as eating and drinking. Xiao Han clicked his tongue. However, it's too difficult and too mysterious. It seems like the saber intent and sword intent are related to the soul. It seems like the stronger one's soul is, the easier it is to comprehend saber intent. Alright, forget it. Start cultivating from the first step. I'll think about it after I cultivate the saber chi. Xiao Han knew that the cultivation of the saber Dao must be done step by step, and he must not be greedy. Saber chi, saber force, saber intent. One step at a time. Of course, it wasn't impossible for Xiao Han to cultivate the saber chi. He had to immerse himself in studying it. In the first cocoon of light that appeared from the 7-fragment saber art, there was a shortcut to cultivating the saber chi. Heart saber. Using the heart as a saber, the saber chi will naturally form. The so-called heart saber meant that in order to cultivate the speed of the saber to the peak, one must use the heart as the foundation. With the saber in the heart, one must use the heart to control the speed of the saber. One must know that no matter how fast one's hands and feet were, they were still not as fast as the heart. Let me test my hand speed first. Xiao Han jumped down from the rock. With a single saber in his hand, all the blood vessels and muscles in his body vibrated. His tendons and bones sounded at the same time, and the strength of his physical body was instantly pushed to the limit. Xiao xiao xiao, the single saber in Xiao Han's hand continuously slashed. One breath later, my strength is 80 cauldrons. When I brandished the saber with all my strength and reached the peak speed, I was only able to slash 7 times in one breath. Xiao Han was ashamed. In the next moment, Son of Heaven's power. Boost. Suddenly Xiao Han's body emitted an incomparably noble aura. It was as if he was the ruler of the world and looked down on the common people. The single saber in his hand began to vibrate. Strands of tyrannical and brutal saber chi pervaded the air. Xiao xiao xiao, Xiao Han wielded the saber and slashed again. This time, in one breath, he actually exceeded his normal performance and slashed out 21 times. The Emperor's great power dispersed. Even with the boost from the Emperor's great power, I still can't slash out saber chi as I please. To slash out saber chi, I must be able to do it at 1/10 of the speed of sound. In other words, in one breath I must slash out 34 times. Xiao Han returned to the rock and sat cross-legged. Moreover, I must be able to directly slash out 34 times without the boost from the Emperor's great power. Only then can I be considered to have true ability. Xiao Han thought. In the future, when I cultivate the saber Dao, I will temporarily abandon the Emperor's great power. When the saber Dao is complete, I will then boost the Emperor's great power. At that time, let's see how powerful it is. Time to comprehend the heart saber. Xiao Han opened up his mind. His eyes seemed empty, as if he was thinking but not thinking. The surroundings immediately turned silent. Xiao Han entered the state of enlightenment. He visualized the heart saber, according to the first cocoon of light in the 7-fragment saber technique, and started to comprehend it. Using the heart as a saber. Using the speed of the heart to replace the speed of the hand. 3 days and 3 nights passed. Xiao Han sat cross-legged like a rock statue, as if he had never moved his body since ancient times. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared in the forest in the distance. They were 3 youths wearing the outer sect disciple robes of Cloud Rain sect. Each of their right arms had an embroidered armband with the words first peak of the outer sect. This Xiao Han is indeed cultivating. He seems to be cultivating a saber technique. Senior brother Shui told us to keep an eye on this guy. A few days ago he left the outer sect area alone and came to this deep mountain. I thought he was going to cultivate some unique secret skill. To think that he has been sitting here like a rock for a few days and nights. What is he cultivating? It doesn't seem like he's practicing the saber. I think there's probably something wrong with this guy's head. Maybe he's comprehending the force. Alright, let's keep an eye on him for another day and see what he's up to. If he continues to sit like this, we'll return to the peak first and rest for a few days before coming back. We can't possibly be foolishly guarding a stone statue here, right? Another 3 days and 3 nights passed. The 3 outer sect disciples who were monitoring Xiao Han could not take it anymore and retreated temporarily. On the 7th day of Xiao Han's force comprehension. Shockingly, Xiao Han opened his eyes and an obscure flash flashed across his eyes. Vaguely, that flash contained the intent of the saber. Huff. Xiao Han exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. What accompanied it was the sound of his stomach rumbling. His shriveled stomach was protesting. Xiao Han hurriedly took out some steamed buns and jerky from his storage ring and wolfed them down. After eating and drinking his fill, Xiao Han held the saber in his hand. Swish, 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 Xiao Han waved his right hand a few times and the saber in his hand actually turned illusory. It was almost invisible to the naked eye and only the flash of the saber could be seen. A streak of saber chi immediately condensed on the edge of the saber. With a buzzing sound, it looked like it was about to shoot out of the saber. However, this streak of saber chi did not shoot out. As Xiao Han withdrew his saber, the saber chi finally dimmed and disappeared. Using my heart to control the saber is indeed several times faster than using my hands and feet. Now I can slash 30 times in a breath. I'm only a step away from 34 times. However, I can only comprehend the heart saber to this extent for now. I need to borrow external force to forcefully increase the speed of the saber to 34 times in a breath and completely cultivate the saber chi. With a thought, Xiao Han carried his saber and walked towards the terrifying waterfall on the peak of the mountain. Gradually, the crazy sound of the water flowing in Xiao Han's ears became louder and louder. It was as if even his heart was gripped by this terrifying sound. Finally, after going around a gorge, Xiao Han arrived at the edge of a cliff with the deafening sound of the water. At the peak of the mountain there was a waterfall that was tens of feet high. It flowed backwards and flowed into a river at the bottom of the cliff. It was like a flash flood. In all directions, water vapor and mist filled the air. It was faintly discernible and full of artistic conception. The river at the bottom of the cliff surged towards the east like a raging dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It brought up turbulent waves and roared ferociously. This section of the river was tightly sandwiched by the cliffs on both sides. Under the obstruction of many submerged reefs at the bottom of the river, the unyielding torrent struggled violently, forming whirlpools that preyed on people. It was extremely dangerous. Xiao Han stood on the cliff and looked down at the river that was tens of feet below him. He felt a sense of pride in his heart. Who dares to practice martial arts here? A Xiao Han dare. The path of cultivation is a struggle against the heavens. If I don't take risks, how can I reach the peak of martial arts? Having made up his mind, Xiao Han carried his saber and followed a rugged path down the cliff. Standing by the river, the water splashed everywhere, drenching Xiao Han's clothes. Xiao Han took a deep breath and leaped onto a protruding rock in the middle of the river. Boom! Suddenly, a turbulent and roaring wave came crashing down like a hammer. It carried the strength of 1,000 soldiers and directly hit Xiao Han's body. Bang! Xiao Han was hit and rolled into the river. Damn it, this wave is so fierce. It has at least a dozen cauldrons of strength. I can't even stand when it comes crashing down on me. Xiao Han gritted his teeth. The indestructible golden body within his body circulated, dispelling the pain caused by this wave that hammered on Xiao Han's body. Xiao Han drank a few mouthfuls of water and grabbed a rock in the river with both hands. He stood up and all the bones in his body exploded. He gathered his strength and with a leap, he once again stood on the protruding rock. Boom! Another wave came crashing down. This wave suddenly rose more than 10 meters high and condensed into the shape of a monster. It mercilessly smashed down on Xiao Han's head. Come on! This time Xiao Han was prepared. Instead, he puffed out his chest and condensed his physical strength. He brazenly withstood the impact of this wave. However, this time Xiao Han did not fall down. His body swayed a few times before he finally stood firm. Just like that, Xiao Han stood on the reef, using his body of flesh and blood to withstand the raging waves. He persisted for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Who knew how many raging waves he had withstood, until his physical strength was completely exhausted. No, not enough. Again. Xiao Han's entire body was powerless. He even knelt down on the rock, his hands and feet trembling. However, he did not immediately jump away. Instead, he remained on the rock. Boom! Another wave came crashing down. Xiao Han immediately stood up and blocked it with his body. Bang! Xiao Han's chest felt as if it had been struck by lightning. A small mouthful of blood spurted out. However, his body was as still as a mountain. He stood there like an iron man and did not fall down. Another incense stick of time passed. Hoo! Xiao Han finally returned to the shore. He collapsed on the riverbank and greedily breathed in the air. His physical strength had been completely squeezed out. Not a single drop was left. However, at this time Xiao Han could feel that the speed at which his bones absorbed the medicinal energy was several times faster than usual. The masochistic method of training has completely exhausted my physical strength. The speed at which I refine my marrow has indeed increased. Xiao Han's heart skipped a beat. Good. This is great. After resting for 4 hours under the nourishment of the indestructible golden body, Xiao Han recovered a small portion of his physical strength. He once again rushed towards the rock in the middle of the river. This was simply a self-destructive method of training. Others would never be like Xiao Han, who risked life and limb to train. Of course, if Xiao Han had not cultivated the indestructible golden body, he would not have dared to torture himself like this. 5 days later. Xiao Han could already endure for 1 hour in the whirlpool of the river. Another 5 days passed. Xiao Han could endure for 4 hours in the whirlpool of the river. On the 11th day, Xiao Han no longer stood on the rock and endured the impact of the huge waves. He began to practice his saber. Boom! An earth-shattering wave swept towards him. The saber in Xiao Han's hand slashed out like lightning. The saber collided with the oncoming wave. The force of the wave was close to 100 cauldrons, causing Xiao Han to lose his grip on the saber and almost drop it. Roar! Xiao Han roared, clenched the saber tightly, and slashed wildly against the wave. On the first day, Xiao Han could only slash 4 times in the wave. Even though he used the heart saber and used his heart to control the speed of the saber, he could only slash 4 times. The resistance of the huge wave seriously affected the speed of Xiao Han's saber. The second day passed. Xiao Han could slash 7 times against the wave. On the third day, 9 times. On the 10th day, 28 times. On the 11th day, Xiao Han stood on the rock, holding the saber in his hand. His hand holding the saber was strangely stable, as steady as a rock. His eyes were as black as the night. Riding the wind and breaking the waves, fighting spirit high. Boom! A wave that was more than 10 meters high, carrying 100 cauldrons of force, crashed down with a loud bang. Shockingly, Xiao Han moved. Xiao, 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 xiao. The saber in his hand flashed continuously. Only the saber light could be seen but not the saber. In the next moment, under the power of Xiao Han's saber, the rapidly rolling wave actually stopped for a breath. Furthermore, poo, 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 poo. In this one breath's time, the wave was actually cut into more than 10 pieces by the saber light. After a breath's time, the huge wave that was cut into more than 10 pieces condensed again and rushed towards Xiao Han's body. But Xiao Han stood still, not moving an inch. 30 slashes. In the huge wave, I can slash 30 times in a breath's time, cutting the huge wave like a butcher dismembering an ox. Xiao Han jumped off the rock and stood on the riverbank, holding the saber in his hand. Under the huge resistance, I can still slash 30 times in a breath's time. Hehe, then try slashing on flat ground. How many times can I slash in a breath's time? A strange light flashed in Xiao Han's eyes. He was eager to try. P.S. Recommend a Xuanhuan book. This is a new book by an old author who is also a god-level character. Spirit Luo Ring is a new book by the author. Back then, this Spirit Luo Ring was extremely popular. I was deeply fascinated by it and followed it. Now he has started a new book. After reading the first few pages, I can't help but be deeply attracted. I am also prepared to follow it one by one. Those who like Xuanhuan can go and collect it. It is indeed a good book. Chapter 57. On the riverbank. Xiao Han held his saber in his hand. After nearly a month of hard training, Xiao Han could already slash 30 times in one breath in the whirlpool of the river. A normal swordsman at the physical body realm would not even be able to hold his saber steadily in the huge waves, let alone practice his saber skills. Xiao Han, on the other hand, relied on the indestructible golden body's abnormal resistance and recovery ability to face the waves head-on like an Iron Man. Now he could instantly split the huge waves. Great progress. This was definitely not a small matter. At this moment, Xiao Han quietly placed his hand on the hilt of the saber. His body was as still as a rock and his eyes were as calm as water. Suddenly, the whole world seemed to have quietened down. The silence was as cold as ice. Everything around him, the surging river, the rumbling waterfall, seemed to be silent. Gradually, the murderous and distant saber aura, with Xiao Han as the center, spread out, covering 100 zhang. The next moment, Xiao Han moved. Xiao 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 xiao, the saber in Xiao Han's hand seemed to have suddenly disappeared. The saber light flashed continuously, and the sound of wind breaking was endless. Only the saber light could be seen but not the saber. In Xiao Han's hand, the saber seemed to be as light as a feather, as if it had already merged with Xiao Han's flesh and soul, becoming a part of him. 200 sabers in one breath. Suddenly Xiao Han roared and raised his right hand. Pooh! A saber aura that was as fast as lightning suddenly slashed out. This saber aura was like the wind and lightning. Its speed was more than half the speed of sound, cutting through the air like cutting bamboo grass. Bang! This saber aura just happened to hit a huge wave that was more than 10 meters high, a few acres wide, and looked like a wild beast. The huge wave was smashed into pieces by the saber aura. Countless water droplets splashed in all directions, spraying into the river. The saber aura's momentum did not diminish, and fiercely slashed at the opposite cliff. Puchi. The hard cliff was cut like tofu, leaving a 10 feet long and 1 foot deep mark. Hu. Xiao Han spat out a mouthful of turbid air, sheathed his saber and stood still like a mountain. Practicing saber in the huge waves of the river, fighting against the whirlpool every day, fighting against nature, really gave me my wish to cultivate saber aura. Xiao Han grinned. Now Xiao Han could slash 200 times in a breath without any resistance. The speed of sound was 340 saber strikes per breath. A bladesman only needed to execute 34 saber strikes in one breath to activate saber chi. And Xiao Han had far surpassed this benchmark. The speed of my saber energy is more than half the speed of sound. The faster the speed of the blade, the greater the power, the sharper the cutting power, and the more terrifying the penetrative and destructive power. To be honest, the strength of my saber chi has already reached 60% of my body's strength, which is close to 50 cauldrons. Xiao Han evaluated himself. As everyone knows, even the most gentle water flow, feathers and withered grass under extreme speed can cut through rocks and steel. Furthermore, Xiao Han's saber chi had a force of 50 ding. A force of 50 cauldrons was blasted out at a speed faster than half the speed of sound. It was indeed invincible, capable of slicing through everything. If my saber speed is a few times faster or even 10 times faster, then it's not impossible for me to destroy the 6 paths with a single saber chi. Xiao Han was full of confidence. However, now that my physical strength has reached a limit, it will be difficult for me to increase the speed of my saber swing. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time. Next, I'll comprehend saber force. Xiao Han carried his saber back to the thatched cottage. He rested to his heart's content for the night. On the second day, Xiao Han still went to the reef in the river in the morning to resist the torrent and temper his physical body. He crazily overdrafted his physical strength, digested the medicinal dregs on his bones, and refined his saber chi. In the afternoon, he sat cross-legged on the rock in front of the thatched cottage, comprehending saber force. As the name implied, saber force was a kind of imposing manner. A kind of understanding, love, and pursuit of the saber Tao. After a swordsman cultivated saber force, his entire body was like an unsheathed treasured saber, with an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers and an unstoppable sharpness. Xiao Han sat quietly to comprehend saber force while repeatedly reading the description of saber force from the first cocoon of light of the 7-fragment saber technique. Moreover, from the mirage-like ancient characters, he captured the faintly discernible saber intent contained within the strokes. Before this, Xiao Han had already successfully comprehended the Son of Heaven's force, the profound concept of withered wood in spring. Thus, it wasn't impossible for Xiao Han to comprehend force. The 3,000 paths lead to the same destination. Using the method of comprehending the Son of Heaven's force to comprehend saber force. 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, the 11th day. Xiao Han sat cross-legged on the rock in front of the thatched cottage like a withered tree. His eyes were closed tightly, and his single saber was placed on his knees. The withered leaves rustled and fluttered as they swirled and fell. Shockingly. The single saber on Xiao Han's knees emitted a light hum. A strange thing happened. The air around Xiao Han's body warped, forming ripples. The fallen leaves that covered the sky seemed to avoid Xiao Han and fell to an area that was about 3 meters away from Xiao Han. Suddenly, Xiao Han's eyes opened wide. The violent force of the saber covered the heavens and the earth as it rose from the ground to the sky and charged into the sky, surging and surging like tide water. Hua 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 hua, the fallen leaves in all directions fled at the sight of the wind. They were blown into the air by the gusts of strong winds and they wailed in the air. Within Xiao Han's eyes, there was actually an aura that was as sharp as a blade that swept out explosively. Xiao Han's eyes seemed to turn like gold, fierce and fierce. The saber force flowed and the saber light overflowed in all directions. There was actually a terrifying feeling that saber intent was about to be born. His entire person had a domineering and unparalleled aura that could sweep through the world. Initial success in the saber force, Xiao Han restrained the aura around him and smiled with satisfaction. In the following days, Xiao Han sat cross-legged on the rock and comprehended the saber force for another 10 days. The saber force in his eyes gradually faded, and his entire person was no longer showing off. It was as if his domineering, fierce and sharp saber force had been deeply refined by Xiao Han, causing him to have a kind of divine light that was restrained, like a fierce tiger that was sleeping. This kind of aura was even more terrifying than 10 days ago. It was almost like returning to the natural state. Returning to the natural state, the saber force is restrained without leaving a trace, Xiaohan smiled. Just from the saber force alone, I have already surpassed that half-step true Qi swordsman Huarong. Huarong's saber force always flowed on the surface of his body, and it gave off the feeling that it would explode at any moment. There was no clever concealment. Suddenly, one night, the dark clouds gathered in the night sky, and the sky was filled with arcs of lightning that were constantly appearing and disappearing like a spider web. It was as if there was a kind of violent power that could destroy the world, and it shook the sky into countless cracks. Kacha, a ray of dazzling white light like a sharp sword, pierced through the entire sky. Between heaven and earth, it was all silvery white. Immediately after, the Heaven Duke was enraged and thunder rumbled everywhere. The whole mountain began to tremble, crawl up, and wail. A heavy downpour descended. Accompanied by the flashes of lightning that filled the sky, the deafening thunder that shook the heaven and earth. All the living beings on the mountain where Xiaohan was, tucked their tails between their legs and went into hiding. The thatched cottage that Xiaohan lived in was quickly torn apart by the thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning? Suddenly Xiaohan's heart palpitated, and all the saber force in his body rushed to the sky. Poof! The tattered thatched cottage was completely crushed into powder. Xiaohan held a single saber in his hand, and he walked in the night rain and thunder like a demon god. His footsteps were neither fast nor slow, and his eyes were slightly narrowed, as if he was comprehending some profound truth in the thunder and lightning. Shockingly, Kacha! A ray of lightning snaked like a snake, and it completely tore apart the sky, its trajectory extending endlessly. Xiaohan raised his head to take a look, and a strange light flashed past his eyes. His spirit was greatly shaken. In the next moment, Xiaohan waved the single saber in his hand, and the saber force wandered in the torrential rain, following the trajectory of the lightning. Gradually, the area covered by the saber force became larger and larger. 5 feet, 10 feet, 60 feet. The single saber slashed apart the curtain of rain, and the sound of the wind burst forth. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if 10,000 horses were galloping, shocking the world. The saber force moved horizontally and vertically, and a kind of tragic concept swept through the wilderness. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were fighting on the battlefield, and blood flowed like a river and corpses filled the field. Suddenly, the single saber in Xiaohan's hand slashed at the void above his head. At the same time, a thunderous sound rolled past, and a sharp ray of lightning was forcibly drawn down by the saber force, fusing into the single saber. In an instant, the single saber radiated electric light in all directions. Xiaohan waved the single saber in his hand, and the speed of the saber was as fast as a meteor, causing his entire body to be wrapped in a ball of electric light. Suddenly, the electric light on the single saber penetrated into Xiaohan's body, causing Xiaohan's entire body to shine brightly, as if he was a thunder god descending to the mortal world. Not long after, the electric light rolled out from Xiaohan's body and fused into the single saber. Xiaohan held the saber with both hands, and with a slash, an earth-shattering rumble resounded. It was as if 1,000 soldiers were easily defeated, and it could topple the mountains and overturn the seas, destroying all ghosts and gods. A ray of saber chi that was mixed with thunder and lightning instantly smashed out. The earth shook. In the next moment, the saber chi had already created a 7 to 8 feet long, 3 to 4 feet deep gully on the ground. Green smoke rose in spirals, and there were continuous electric lights exploding in the gully. After a while, the explosions stopped, but the residual electric lights were still sizzling, and there was a burnt smell in the surroundings. Xiaohan sheathed his saber and stood still, his right hand caressing the saber's body. In this dark night where thunder and lightning intersected, his entire person glowed with a peerless elegance. I have mastered the thunderclap extermination saber. From then on, the saber chi was mixed with the power of thunder and lightning. It was violent and brutal, and its power increased. And my understanding of saber force has been consolidated, and I have actually touched the threshold of saber intent. Xiaohan let out a long roar like the roar of a tiger or a dragon. The sound shook the valley, and it did not stop for a long time. After that, an entire month passed. Xiaohan gave up on saber training, and he did not go to the river to temper his body. He sat on the rock all day, his eyes half open and half closed. His mind was completely empty and his mental energy spread out. During this period of seclusion, all kinds of hard training and understanding of saber Tao flowed into Xiaohan's mind like flowing water. Xiaohan summed up his gains and losses. Moreover, he constantly tried to figure out the saber intent contained in the words in the cocoon of light that had exploded from the 7-fragment saber technique. The more he tried to figure out, the more stable and solid his saber force became. Moreover, because Xiao Han was a transmigrator, his soul power was naturally strong. This time he gave up on saber training, and used his soul to visualize the ancient words that had exploded from the cocoon of light, and he actually had some gains. In his soul, there seemed to be something hidden that was about to break out of the cocoon. Another half a month passed. Xiao Han was still sitting cross-legged, his eyes slightly closed. Leaves swirled around him. Suddenly, Xiao Han opened his eyes. The saber chi in his eyes was like a tide, and divine light surged, shining brightly. The next moment, poof, 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 poof. The air twisted and turned into thin lines of ripples that suddenly cut through everything. The speed was impressively the speed of sound. Countless leaves seemed to be cut by invisible sharp blades, or as if they were cut by the air. Suddenly, one was cut into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, 8 into 16, and finally they were turned into dust. Xiao Han's saber force did not leak out, and his strength was restrained. He was actually using his soul power to control the air, and at the speed of sound he cut the leaves in the air. At this point, while Xiao Han's mind was wandering, his mind was clear. His understanding of Saber Dao had entered a whole new level, as if he had opened the door to the peak of Saber Dao. It was extraordinary. I finally comprehended the 1-in-a-million saber intent. Xiao Han's heart was neither happy nor sad. The improvement of his state of mind was indescribable. However, I'm afraid that my current saber intent has not even reached the true initial success stage. The saber intent that I have mastered now uses the soul and soul power as the helmsman to control the air, turning it into saber chi, and at the speed of sound it can cut everything including the void. However, I can't control too much air to turn it into saber chi, and my soul and soul power can't keep up. As for the tempering of saber intent, I can only do it step by step. The saber intent is formless, and the tempering is too mysterious and ethereal. But at least I've embarked on this path. 10 days later. On the bank of New River. On the riverbank. Xiao Han held his saber. It's been 4 months since I went into seclusion. I've been training hard every day, and about 20 to 30% of the medicinal power in my bones have been absorbed by my bones, and settled in my bone marrow. My physical strength has increased from 80 ding to 100 ding. It can be considered as the initial success stage of refining marrow. In the whirlpool I can slash 32 times in a breath. Under normal circumstances I can slash 230 times in a breath. The speed of the saber chi that is shot out is more than half the speed of sound, and the strength reaches 65 ding. The saber chi is accompanied by thunder and lightning, and its power is enhanced, piercing through everything. The saber aura has reached the realm of returning to the natural state, and the saber light is restrained. The saber intent is gradually approaching the initial success stage. Xiao Han calculated the results of today's seclusion. A wave rose to the sky. Suddenly Xiao Han's saber flashed. Boom. A saber chi burst out. This saber chi was about 3 meters long, and it shattered the vast sky. It was violent and unparalleled. Moreover, the saber chi contained the light of thunder, and the sound of thunder was loud. The wind howled and the trees and grass panicked. Puchi, the wave was split into 2 by the saber chi. The cut was smooth and it flew up and down. For the next 3 days Xiao Han basically did not cultivate. He let his mind completely relax. Every day he would chase, hunt and pick wild fruits in the mountains. It was as if he was on an outing. During this period of time, his tense heartstrings had been completely relaxed because of the bitter cultivation. One evening, Xiao Han set up a rack and used the bonfire to roast fish. Not long after, the oil burst and the aroma filled the air. Hee. Xiao Han swallowed a mouthful of saliva and rubbed his hands. The taste of this roasted fish must be refreshing. And I will return to the sect tomorrow. The seclusion this time has become bland. Although there are still about 2 months before the outer sect ranking competition, my physical strength, saber dao, and saber intent have temporarily reached a small bottleneck. I can't continue my seclusion anymore. I have to go out for a walk. If there is a chance to go to the Jianghu to gain experience, it would be a good choice. Suddenly Xiao Han's ears slightly trembled. Immediately, a smile flashed across the corner of his mouth as he said loudly, "All right, stop hiding. Come out. Why are you sneaking around?" In the next moment, in the nearby forest, 3 youths wearing outer sect robes came out. On each of their right armbands were the words, "First Peak of the Outer Court." They were the 3 outer sect disciples that Shui Jianfeng had sent to monitor Xiao Han. However, these 3 people did not watch over Xiao Han day and night in the past 4 months. They came here a few times and found that Xiao Han was sitting cross-legged on the rocks to comprehend the force. Thus, they were very annoyed and always stayed on the mountain to monitor him. After 3 days they would return to their own mountain. This time, they sneaked into the mountain peak 2 days ago, only to find that Xiao Han didn't cultivate at all. Instead, he was hunting and playing in the mountains or catching fish and prawns in the river. They didn't know what Xiao Han was up to. At this time, after being exposed by Xiao Han, they did not hide anymore and openly showed themselves. They had a fearless appearance, even to the extent that they were overbearing and approached Xiao Han step by step. Their faces were surging with killing intent. Alright. You can eat now. Xiao Han's back was facing the 3 people. Without turning around, he directly grabbed the roasted river fish and tore it apart, shouting loudly. Good. I, Xiao Han, am indeed talented in cooking. This tastes really good. Enough, Xiao Han, stop playing tricks. One of the 3 outer sect youths who were monitoring Xiao Han flicked his fingernails. You're hiding here in seclusion, practicing your blade skills, all for the outer sect ranking competition in 2 months, right? Not bad. You can endure the loneliness and cultivate in this barren mountain for a whole 4 months. Indeed, your willpower is extraordinary. I can see that your saber art is not bad, but cramming at the last moment is an idiotic move. We have asked around and found that you have never used a weapon before. This time, you practice the saber art to have another trump card, right? In the outer sect ranking competition, you made a surprise move and gained some benefits. Yes, but we saw through you. Naturally, we will spread the news of you practicing the saber and expose your trump card. The other outer disciple rolled his eyelids and said in a cold tone, full of arrogance. No matter how you cultivate, you are not a match for our senior brother Shui. You have offended our senior brother Shui. There is no place for you in this world. But you are lucky. Before senior brother Shui left for this adventure, he specially told us not to touch you for the time being and let you live for a while longer. Senior brother Shui wants to personally torture you in the outer sect ranking competition. He wants you to beg for death and regret coming to this world. If not for senior brother Shui's warning, the 3 of us would have already punished you. You may not know our methods, but we are very experienced in dealing with lowly people like you. At this moment, Xiao Han had already finished eating the roasted fish. His hands were greasy and he was wiping them on his robe. Turn around, kneel down and kowtow. An outer sect disciple looked at Xiao Han's back with disgust and roared. Hey. At this moment, Xiao Han turned around with grease on his mouth. He burped and stood up. You are Shui Jianfeng's loyal dogs, right? You were ordered to monitor me. Not bad. Ever since I cultivated the saber art, I have never tested it on a living person. Very good. Suddenly, Xiao Han waved his hand. Clang. 10 steps away from Xiao Han, a saber was stabbed into a rock. At this moment, the handle of the saber trembled, the air vibrated and the saber let out a sound. The next moment, Xiao. The saber was pulled out from the rock by an invisible force. As if it had a life of its own, Xiao Han jumped in the air and grabbed the saber with his right hand. What? What is this? The pupils of the 3 outer sect disciples suddenly shrank and they looked at Xiao Han in disbelief. With the saber in hand, Xiao Han's aura suddenly expanded and a wave of saber aura soared into the sky. His eyes were like a demon god looking down on the world. The 3 outer sect disciples could not help but take a step back and their faces suddenly turned as white as paper. One of the outer sect disciples said in fear. Monarch, minister, assistant and envoy, using an invisible intent to control a saber. This is the legendary situation where a saber user comprehended the saber intent. Could it be? Could it be that you have comprehended the saber intent? Oh, how is this possible? You are just a lowly living target, how could you comprehend the saber intent? The next moment, go. The 3 outer sect disciples reacted strangely and quickly retreated. One of the disciples burst out with energy and the airflow surged. As he breathed, the pale yellow airflow condensed into a layer of armor on the surface of his body. It looked like fish scales on the outside and there was a round mirror on the chest. It was as solid as a fortress. Earth King light armor. Another disciple took 8 steps in a breath. When he took the 8th step, his body burst out with great potential. In a flash, he had traveled a distance of more than 10 zhang. 8 steps overtaking cicada. The last disciple stomped on the ground and the ground cracked. His whole body soared into the sky and jumped 3 zhang high and 3 zhang away like a toad. Golden toad leap. The three outer sect youths each used their trump cards to defend themselves or to flee for their lives. Xiaohan did not move. His hand held the saber hilt and his eyes suddenly became as calm as water. The world was as silent as ice. Suddenly, a murderous saber aura shrouded, Pooh! A saber aura burst out at a speed faster than half the speed of sound. This saber aura was like the roar of an evil dragon. It was extremely ferocious. Wherever it went, the ground instantly cracked and sunk. Crackling electric arcs exploded all over the ground. Pooh! 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 The saber aura first killed the outer sect disciple with the chief low armor. The sturdy armor exploded like tofu. The saber aura swept past and cut him in half at the waist. Immediately after, the saber aura did not stop. When the outer sect disciple who used the golden toad leap landed on the ground, the saber aura swept across his neck. His head flew into the sky. Finally, the outer sect disciple who had already used the 8 steps overtaking Cicada had already flown more than 10 zhang away. However, the saber aura was like a tarsal bone crushing towards him. Pooh! The outer sect disciple's legs were cut off. The electric arcs kept exploding at his severed legs, crackling and burning. However, he did not die immediately. Instead, he let out a heart-wrenching scream. Xiaohan walked over step by step. Alright, I should also go back. I'll rush back through the night. Xiaohan walked straight past without any hesitation and quickly disappeared into the night. The one-legged youth looked at Xiaohan's back as he disappeared into the night. A trace of doubt flashed across his mind. Why didn't he kill me? Just as this thought came to mind, swish. Chapter 58. He slept soundly until noon the next day when the sun was high up in the sky. Xiaohan turned over and got out of bed. He seemed to be in high spirits and full of vigor. After washing up, he changed into a new set of outer sect robes and leisurely walked out of the courtyard. After 4 months of hard work, Xiaohan had officially reached the lesser mastery of the marrow-tempering realm. His physical strength had increased and he had grown taller. Now Xiaohan's height was close to 1.8 meters, but his body didn't seem to be burly. Instead, he had a graceful and elegant air about him. When he walked slightly, he was like a graceful swan, like a swimming dragon, indescribably elegant and peaceful. Xiaohan's facial features looked like they had been carved out of an ancient sculpture. His eyes occasionally flashed with the light of a blade, which was impervious to all evils. However, most of the time the light of the blade was hidden deeply, giving people the feeling of a deep well, unfathomable. Just as he was about to walk out of the courtyard area, Xiaohan stopped in his tracks. He saw that outside a courtyard with swaying bamboos, Acho was nodding and bowing, discussing something with a few outer sect disciples. Looking at Acho's expression, he was very anxious and depressed, as if he was begging someone, and the few outer sect disciples all showed a difficult expression, continuously shaking their heads. Xiaohan strained his ears to listen. Acho could be heard continuously trying to curry favor with him. Dear senior brothers, today is my clan's meeting. I sincerely ask you to do me the honor and follow me down the mountain to participate in the clan meeting. Just help this little brother maintain his image so that this little brother will not become a joke in the clan and be ridiculed by others. Acho, it's not that I don't want to help you, but the outer sect ranking competition is approaching, and I need to temper my martial skills properly. Acho, you better find someone else. Acho, I've just started changing my blood and my cultivation is not good enough. I want to support you but I can't. Go find someone else. I really can't help you. Acho, I happen to be preparing to go into seclusion. I'm sorry. The few outer sect disciples were all pushing and refusing to agree to Acho's request. One of the outer sect disciples said, Acho, I see that you have a close relationship with senior brother Xiaohan. Senior brother Xiaohan is a genius and has shown off his abilities. You should go and beg him. If he's willing to go back with you to attend the family meeting, you'll immediately gain face. Most likely to be in the limelight in your family. He's better than everyone else. Acho said with a long face, Xiaohan? He didn't know where Xiaohan had gone recently. If Xiaohan was here, I wouldn't have come here to beg all of you senior brothers. The clan meeting is drawing near. I hope that all of you will help me out on account of our relationship as fellow disciples. I will definitely repay you generously in the future. Enough, Acho, don't be so long-winded here. If you're not going, then you're not going. Generous reward? Acho, you think too highly of yourself, what can you repay? Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Don't let it affect our cultivation. Go play somewhere else. Sigh. Senior brother Ah Chao's connections on this peak are really... Xiaohan shook his head. Now Xiaohan had heard a few words from the side and understood what was going on. Of course, Xiaohan also knew that the reason why Ah Chao's network was so poor was mostly because of his ugly appearance. Everyone looked down on him and avoided him like a snake or a scorpion, seeing him as an ominous person. Senior brother Ah Chou. Xiaohan Fa shouted and walked over. Xiaohan. When Ah Chou heard this, he was immediately startled. His slightly hunched back suddenly straightened up. He turned around and his face beamed. Ah, Xiaohan. Good brother, you're finally back. The two of them had a bear hug after a long time of separation. Senior brother Xiaohan. Those outer sect disciples who had been rejecting Ah Chou all bowed and greeted Xiaohan awkwardly when they saw him. One of the outer sect disciples rolled his eyes and explained. Senior brother Xiaohan, I am actually willing to go back with Ah Chou to participate in the clan meeting. But recently I am preparing to go into seclusion to refine my body. It's fine. I will accompany senior brother Ah Chou back alone. Xiaohan waved his hand indifferently. The outer sect disciples hemmed and hawed a few times before excusing themselves. Xiaohan, where did you go for seclusion during this period of time? There's no news from you. Xiaohan and Ah Chou walked out of the side courtyard area side by side. Senior brother Ah Chou, the outer sect ranking competition is approaching. Time doesn't wait for me. I have no choice but to cultivate in seclusion. I forgot to inform you before I left. Xiaohan put his arm around Ah Chou's shoulder and explained. Moreover, Xiaohan could feel that Ah Chou's aura was calm and steady. There was a faint light flowing in his eyes. Between his breath, there was still a medicinal fragrance remaining. Xiaohan smiled. Senior brother Ah Chou, you broke through the organs refinement realm and reached the marrow refinement realm? How is your cultivation of that withered tree treasure record? Ah Chou grinned. Xiaohan, it's all thanks to you buying a batch of organs refinement pills for me. A week ago, I finally took a big step forward and advanced to the marrow refinement realm. As for the withered tree treasure record, take a look. Ah Chou raised his right hand. A faint wood fragrance immediately enshrouded the air. Wood rings appeared on his palm. The air was also covered with a few layers of withered skin. Ah, senior brother Ah Chou, you're good. Looks like your withered tree palm cultivation is successful. Congratulations, congratulations. Xiaohan was overjoyed. All of this is thanks to you, brother, Ah Chou said with a chuckle. Alright, Xiaohan. 3 days later, I will descend the mountain and return to the clan to participate in the clan meeting. At that time, what about you? I'll go back with you. Xiaohan patted his chest and said. I Xiaohan have very few friends in the Cloud Rain sect. Senior brother Ah Chou is the only one. Now that senior brother Ah Chou needs help, I don't dare to say that I can provide help in times of need. Xiaohan, you are providing help in times of need. Ah Chou said seriously. Xiaohan, let me tell you. My clan in the secular world does have some power. It can be considered as a large clan. The competition between the disciples in the clan is intense and the internal strife is severe. The clan sends us disciples to the various large sects to cultivate. Firstly, we hope that we will be successful in the martial Tao and strengthen the clan's foundation. Secondly, it is for us to get to know more friends in the large sections. In fact, the clan meeting every year is for the disciples to compete and show off. It's to see who can make more martial Tao friends and be proud of it. It's also the capital to compete for the next clan head position. Forget it. Xiaohan, I'll talk to you in detail when you return to the clan with me a few days later. Alright, let me tell you. Ling Feiyu is back. Oh. Xiaohan was indifferent. Xiaohan, Ling Feiyu knows that you injured Yang Lei and won the 10,000 true martial coins that he deposited with Yang Lei. Therefore, he is very unhappy. Can even be said that he is furious. Moreover, Ling Feiyu seems to feel that his position in this peak is threatened by you. In short, Xiaohan, if you meet Ling Feiyu, I'm afraid that you will be like ice and charcoal and there will be another fierce battle. Hee hee. The corner of Xiaohan's mouth twitched slightly and said with a smile. Fierce battle? Senior brother Ah Chou, my body is full of energy now and my fighting spirit is high. It's best if that Ling Feiyu doesn't provoke me. If he dares to provoke me, I'll directly cripple him. Ah Chou was frightened by Xiaohan's words and shivered. However, when he raised his head and looked, Xiaohan's eyes were shining brightly. His essence, qi and spirit had greatly increased compared to a few months ago. It was impossible to see through his depth. Therefore Ah Chou muttered. Xiaohan, when you cultivate, it's really 1,000 miles in a day. I'm afraid that Ling Feiyu really can't take advantage of you. After all, you and Jing Shan exchanged a blow last time. It's a draw. Immediately, anger appeared on Ah Chao's face. Speaking of Jing Shan, Xiao Han, during the time you were in seclusion, the people from Jing Shan's peak often came to provoke us and fought with our peak's people on the arena? Oh? Xiao Han was stunned. How is the battle situation? Is there a need to ask? Ah Chao's face was filled with grievance. Of course, our peak's people suffered a great loss. Quite a few of our senior martial brothers have been severely injured. There are countless light injuries. Now, our peak is covered in a gloomy fog. Everyone is even in danger. Even the three chiefs are furious and vomiting blood. But there's no choice. Our peak is weak and can't win against them. What about Ling Feiyu and Meng Ran? Xiao Han frowned. These two people are known as the main characters of our peak. Now that they are being bullied by others, how can they tolerate it? Don't mention it, Ah Cho said indignantly. Meng Ran didn't even come back. He has been training outside. Ling Feiyu came back, but he has an indifferent attitude. Everyone said that this time, Ling Feiyu seems to have cultivated some trump card and is preparing to shine in the outer sect ranking competition 2 months later. He wants to suppress everyone with his skills, so he doesn't want to expose his trump card in advance. Trash. Xiao Han frowned and was furious. Being bullied and trampled on, he is actually willing to be bullied and humiliated in order to keep his trump card. This is simply abandoning himself. When a beast is cornered, it knows to fight back. As the saying goes, when a beast is poor, it will gnaw, and when a bird is poor, it will peck. A cowardly coward like Ling Feiyu could forget about cultivating martial arts in this lifetime. Yes, the three chiefs have always treated me well. This time let me help them vent their anger. Come, senior brother Ah Cho, accompany me to the plaza at the peak to meet the three chiefs. Ling Feiyu was a complete good-for-nothing. He's a fool to call himself a genius. Xiao Han, who are you calling trash? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out behind Xiao Han. This voice contained extreme anger and old grudges. Xiao Han and Ah Cho turned around together. He saw a tall and slender young man walking over in a leisurely manner. He wore a sea blue robe, his face was fair and handsome, and he had an elegant temperament. There was an air of nobility around him. His eyes glowed with an azure blue color, and he looked extremely demonic. Behind him, the air wrinkled and revealed a vast expanse of ocean. There were seagulls gliding on the surface of the ocean, and there was a magnificent scene of sharks fighting for supremacy and whales swallowing elephants. A salty and fishy smell of seawater spread everywhere. It was Ling Feiyu. The main character of this peak, a young genius, was not to be underestimated. At this moment, Ling Feiyu looked deeply at Xiao Han. His sea-like eyes were filled with murderous intent and danger. Behind Ling Feiyu there was a large group of supporters. There were also many outer sect disciples in this area. All of them stopped and observed quietly. One was the main character of this peak who had been famous for a long time. He comprehended the power of the ocean and was ranked 18th in the previous outer sect ranking competition. After a year of hard cultivation, he was prepared to make a comeback. The other was a living target, but he had recently risen like a comet and was in the limelight. The two of them confronted each other. This made the onlookers feel like they were watching a fight between a dragon and a tiger. Xiao Han, I heard that you've been showing off and stirring up trouble everywhere recently. You've been in the limelight a lot. Ling Feiyu said arrogantly. You're a nobody. Now that you've had a fortuitous encounter, you should cultivate obediently and not show off. However, you've done the opposite. I won't care about other things. However, you should know that you should look at the owner before beating a dog. How dare you injure Yang Lei? Do you know that you're provoking me, Ling Feiyu? Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the outer sect's 10 peaks just because you exchanged a blow with Zheng Shan. I'll give you a chance now. Hand over the 10,000 true martial coins, apologize and beg for my forgiveness. Otherwise there won't be a good ending. Oh? There won't be a good ending? Xiao Han flicked his fingernails and sneered. It's impossible for me to spit out what I've swallowed. Moreover, I've already spent the 10,000 true martial coins. Ling Feiyu? Ah. Chapter 59. Fortunately, the outer disciples of this peak had seen Xiao Han's arrogance many times before. Amongst them, the most eye-catching time was in the territory of the number 1 genius of the outer court, Xue Jianfeng. They were at loggerheads and they almost fought each other on the battlefield. The incident had long been made known to the outer disciples of the 10 Peaks, and became the topic of conversation among the outer disciples. Right now, Xiao Han was displaying his arrogance in front of Ling Feiyu. It was not too abrupt. On the contrary, most of the surrounding outer sanctum disciples could not help but think, this was Xiao Han. If Xiao Han wasn't arrogant, would he still be Xiao Han? However, Ling Feiyu had never personally witnessed Xiao Han's overbearing and arrogance. He found it inconceivable. Moreover, he had always been proud of his talent and considered himself to be the top outer disciple of this peak. Now that he heard Xiao Han's words, he felt like he was a sloppy beggar who threatened to defile the daughter of a rich family. What? You want to cripple me? Ling Feiyu's fair face instantly flushed red. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his entire body trembled. The quiet ocean behind him suddenly stirred up a storm. Countless sharks and whales were howling as though they wanted to break free from the ocean and come out to eat people. Ling Feiyu, since you're enjoying the high and mighty glory of this peak and are worshipped and supported by the outer sect disciples of this peak, you're not the only one. Then you should take responsibility. When the forces of the other peaks charged over, you were the first to bear the brunt of the attack, so you had to defend the dignity of your peak. But you just have to hide. Do you want to stay out of trouble? Trash. You are a complete piece of trash. Don't speak now. If you say another word, I'll cripple you. Xiao Han's eyes were like torches as he stared intently at Ling Feiyu. His eyes were full of disdain and mockery. Xiao Han. Ling Feiyu's flushed face turned ghastly pale in an instant. He was so furious that he wished he could eat Xiao Han alive. Get on the stage. We won't rest until one of us dies. Ha. Xiao Han chuckled. Without saying another word, he turned around and walked towards the arena. Xiao Han? Acho followed behind him. With a swing of his robe, Ling Feiyu led a group of followers toward the ring in an overbearing manner. At this moment, Ling Feiyu's heart was filled with killing intent. His original intention of keeping his trump card was completely overturned. He just wanted to kill Xiao Han in the arena to vent his anger. His pride wasn't something that anyone could trample on as they pleased. Furthermore, he could not allow his position on this peak to be threatened. In the arena area, the news of the death match between Xiao Han and Ling Feiyu spread like wildfire. This was a battle between the top outer disciple of this peak and the rising star. Xiao Han kept saying that he wanted to cripple Ling Feiyu, but Ling Feiyu retaliated by saying that he would not rest until he was dead. Too ruthless. This battle was filled with horrifying and extremely dense killing intent. The arena area had already been surrounded by 3 layers of people from the outside of the peak. It was so tight that not even a drop of water could pass through. Everyone stared at the arena with their eyes wide open, not daring to blink for fear of missing something. In the arena, Xiao Han and Ling Feiyu confronted each other. Xiao Han did not move, nor did he accumulate his power. His entire body was like wood or stone, yet as calm as water. On the other hand, the waves behind Ling Feiyu surged violently like raging whales, and his aura rose steadily. Boom! Visible ripples appeared in the air, and the seawater swept in all directions, filling the entire arena. Ocean storms swept out violently, tearing the wind in all directions. Xiao Han was like a lonely boat drifting in the ocean, and he could be destroyed at any moment. Xiao Han, it's too late for you to regret it now. You will pay for what you said. A cruel smile flashed across the corner of Ling Feiyu's mouth. After a few months of bitter cultivation, Ling Feiyu's understanding of the general trend of the sea had improved a little. The force chi could actually evolve into an ocean storm that could devour everything. It was overwhelming and invincible. Xiao Han still looked as calm as an ancient well. Below the arena, many outer sect disciples could not help but break out in cold sweat for Xiao Han. Senior brother Ling Feiyu is indeed talented. His understanding of the general trend of the sea is too solid. The ocean formed by his force chi can be passed off as genuine. This is no small matter. On the other hand, senior brother Xiao Han's aura is completely gone, as if he has been completely suppressed. What's going on? Could it be that senior brother Xiao Han is going to be suppressed by senior brother Ling Feiyu? Senior brother Xiao Han was a ruthless character who did not fall into a disadvantageous position against a strong person like Zheng Shan in a single move. What's going on today? However, based on the current situation, senior brother Ling Feiyu's battle strength has probably surpassed Zheng Shan. His ranking in this year's outer sect ranking competition can be moved up a little. Oh, I feel that there is a very special aura on senior brother Xiao Han's body. As for what aura it is, I can't tell either. Wait, returning to the original state. Why do I feel an aura of returning to the original state from senior brother Xiaohan's body? At this moment, Xiaohan. It's a worthy death for you to die under this move. Ling Feiyu moved. Suddenly Ling Feiyu raised his right fist, and an endless ocean storm instantly gathered on his fist. His chi surged like a bull and he was insufferably arrogant. Furthermore, a giant whale seemed to be about to emerge from the ocean storm and devour someone. Ocean whale storm fist. Boom! A giant ocean whale violently charged out. With the support of the ocean storm, the air was shattered like a mirror, and gullies were formed on the ground. The entire arena was filled with dust and smoke. In the blink of an eye, Xiaohan also moved. Boom! A tyrannical and sharp saber aura appeared out of nowhere and soared into the sky. Swish, 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 Xiaohan's right hand turned into a hand saber and fiercely chopped in the air. In a breath's time he chopped out 230 hand saber auras. The 230 saber auras stacked together and instantly formed a saber aura that was several zhang long. On this saber aura, there were terrifying electric arcs flashing like thousands of coiling snakes. It was a ghastly sight. The terrifying saber aura sucked all the air in the space in front of it, leaving not a single drop behind. It almost formed a vacuum state without any resistance. Break for me. Xiaohan's aura increased infinitely, and the air in the surroundings lowered. The sound of thunder was heard everywhere and the wind was howling. Boom! The giant saber aura was like a tyrant acting arbitrarily and sweeping out. Its speed soared to the limit. The faster the speed, the more terrifying the penetrating power of the saber aura. The entire arena was filled with thunder and lightning. A violent storm. There was a terrifying feeling as if a lightning punishment had descended and a natural disaster was coming. Why is there lightning everywhere? Such a powerful saber aura. The outer sect disciples who were watching the battle all closed their eyes and dodged. The violent wind blew, causing their clothes to flutter. The saber aura seeped out and left cuts on their robes. In the next moment, bang! The giant whale wrapped in the ocean storm was crushed by the saber aura. Ling Feiyu's impregnable momentum of the ocean was instantly sliced into pieces. Kacha, 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 a huge ocean was sliced into thousands of pieces. All of them were crushed into bubbles. The remaining saber aura did not slow down and continued to roll towards Ling Feiyu. Ling Feiyu was scared out of his wits. He used his ghost-like movement technique and almost instantaneously moved to the left, trying to dodge the saber aura. However, the saber aura was too fast in the vacuum state. Ling Feiyu exerted all his strength, but a small portion of the saber aura still penetrated his body. Bang! The saber aura in Ling Feiyu's body exploded. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Ling Feiyu's mouth. Ling Feiyu knelt on the ground with green smoke coming out of his eyes, ears, mouth and nose. In the next moment, on the arena Xiaohan withdrew all the saber aura. With his hands behind his back he looked at Ling Feiyu. An indescribable arrogance and haughtiness appeared at the corner of his mouth. Just now Xiaohan did not draw his saber. When Xiaohan wielded a single saber and struck with all his might, the force of a saber aura could reach 65 cauldron. However, if he used his hand to stimulate the saber aura, the force of each saber aura would only be about 15 cauldron. However, it was definitely not a small matter to strike 230 times in one go, stack them together, suck up the air and instantly crush them. It could easily destroy 1,000 soldiers, cut through everything and kill people and ghosts. Furthermore, Xiaohan had not added his saber intent. Once he added his saber intent, there would be no suspense in the outcome. Killing Ling Feiyu was as easy as blowing off dust. Even so, although he did not kill Ling Feiyu, the saber aura that entered his body and the thunder intent of the thunderclap extermination saber had greatly destroyed Ling Feiyu's internal organs, meridians and bones. Now Ling Feiyu would not die, but he was already half crippled. Even if he could find a healing panacea in the future, he would no longer have any chance to advance to the supreme true energy realm. Ling Feiyu was crippled. Indeed, after cultivating a weapon, my destructive power is several times greater than when I was barehanded. Xiaohan nodded slightly in his heart. Immediately after, he lightly jumped off the arena. Just as Xiaohan jumped off the arena, Ling Feiyu's head tilted to one side, and he collapsed with a loud bang. He had fainted. The entire arena was silent. Everyone looked at Xiaohan with horrified eyes as though they were looking at a demon god. No one had expected that this so-called fierce battle would end in such a one-sided situation. Ling Feiyu was actually not a match for Xiao Han. He was crippled in one move. Moreover, those with discerning eyes could see that Xiao Han was completely at his wits' end. It was obvious that he had held back his trump card. Defeating an opponent with a higher cultivation level would make people look at him in a different light, but defeating a genius with a higher cultivation level was enough to move people. Let's go, senior brother Acho. Accompany me to the peak to look for the few managers. Xiao Han pulled Acho, who was standing stiffly like a puppet, out of the arena area. Everywhere they passed, all the outer sect disciples automatically made way for them. The thousands of outer sect disciples were completely silent as they watched Xiao Han and Acho leave. After a long time, an outer sect disciple murmured, "From today onwards our outer sect peak will not be surnamed Ling or Meng, but Xiao. Senior brother Xiao Han is too strong, so strong that there is no limit." TSK, no wonder he dared to challenge Shui Jianfeng. In this year's outer sect ranking competition, senior brother Xiao Han will probably be in the top 3. At the White Jade Plaza on the peak, Xiao Han saw the worried faces of the 3 managers. "Xiao Han, you've come out of seclusion?" The 3 managers immediately surrounded him. They carefully looked at Xiao Han, but the more they looked, the more they couldn't see through Xiao Han. "Xiao Han, if I'm not wrong, your current cultivation is at the initial success stage of marrow refinement. You haven't completely fused the medicinal power of the marrow refinement in your body into your bone marrow. But your aura? I can't see through it. There seems to be a kind of divine light that is restrained, returning to the realm of simplicity. Isn't this too strong? Xiao Han, how is your cultivation of the Saber Dao? Xiao Han, when did you come out of seclusion? Why didn't you inform us?" The 3 managers started to ask questions at once. Managers, this disciple just returned to the mountain late last night. Once I woke up today, I came to see the 3 managers, Xiao Han said with a smile. "Oh, that's right. I should have come earlier, but I encountered Ling Feiyu. I was delayed for half an hour." Ling Feiyu. When Ling Feiyu was mentioned, the expressions of the 3 managers suddenly changed. All of them blew their beards and glared at Xiao Han with anger. "Back then, the 3 of us also nurtured Ling Feiyu with great effort. We asked for elixirs and secret manuals for him. However, we didn't expect this kid to forget his roots after he cultivated a little. The people from the other peaks came and wantonly humiliated and trampled on our peak. However, Ling Feiyu refused to help. He kept making excuses and was unwilling to accept the challenge. As a result, many disciples of our peak were injured." One of the managers said angrily. "Ingrate." Another manager cursed fiercely. "Does he think we don't know what Ling Feiyu is scheming? He just wants to keep a trump card for himself. He wants to use his trump card in this year's outer sect ranking competition. Furthermore, he might directly enter the inner sect this year and completely leave our peak. He's a greedy person." "Haha, 3 managers, why are you so angry over a cripple?" Xiao Han laughed. The 3 managers looked at Xiao Han in confusion. "What cripple? Xiao Han, what do you mean?" I forgot to tell the 3 managers that before I came, I exercised my muscles a little and crippled Ling Feiyu," Xiao Han said bitterly. "Ah." The 3 managers were stunned and immediately shook their heads. "Xiao Han, don't joke around. Ling Feiyu is also a genius. I heard that he had a fortuitous encounter when he went to the ocean to comprehend the force and cultivated an ultimate skill. 3 masters." Acho swallowed a mouthful of saliva at the side. "Xiao Han has indeed crippled Ling Feiyu. He completely crippled Ling Feiyu with one move." "What?" The 3 managers' bodies shook violently. They widened their eyes and looked at Xiao Han without blinking as if they had seen a ghost. "All right, 3 managers. I heard that the people from Jingshan's peak often came to cause trouble these few months and even injured many of our people. After crippling Ling Feiyu, I finally exercised my muscles a little. Now please lead the way. We'll counterattack and fight our way to their door. Aren't the people from that peak very arrogant? This time I'm going to sweep through everything. I'm going to cripple all of them." Chapter 60. The 3 chiefs were utterly terrified, as if their souls had flown out of their bodies. "Crippled?" Xiao Han frowned. "What's wrong, 3 chiefs? Is there anything wrong?" According to the rules of the Cloud Rain sect, apart from private duels that are not allowed, once the disciples of the sect enter the arena, their life and death will be determined by fate. As a matter of fact, I was kind and merciful. I only crippled Ling Feiyu and did not kill him on the spot. He kept saying that he would not rest until one of us is dead. Sometimes I'm a very soft-hearted person. All right, Xiaohan, you're kind and merciful? One of the chiefs laughed involuntarily. You're still kind and merciful? Xiaohan, I can see that you're so calm and collected right now. It's hard for me to believe that you've crippled a genius before this. It's as if you've just casually swatted a fly to death. TSK, this kind of bearing. Xiaohan, don't worry. We won't punish you and the higher-ups won't make things difficult for you. You're right. Once you enter the arena, life and death will be disregarded. Our Cloud Rain sect, the Beacon Fire Empire, and even the entire true martial continent revere the martial Tao. The lives of mortals are like grass. There's also competition and internal strife between martial artists. Ling Feiyu was crippled by you because his skills were not as good as yours. There's nothing to complain about. You didn't kill him because of your kindness. However, it is also because people like him will never be able to pose any threat to you in eternity. You disdained to kill him. You crippled Ling Feiyu with a single move. Xiaohan, what kind of monster are you? How did you cultivate? Xiaohan rubbed his nose and smiled pretentiously. 3 chiefs, there's no need to make such a fuss, right? Me. I'm just a person with mediocre aptitude. As a matter of fact, it's not that I'm powerful, but Ling Feiyu is too weak. 3 chiefs, think about it. What kind of genius is Ling Feiyu? It's just that he's the cream of the crop among the thousands of outer disciples on our peak. In the entire Cloud Rain sect's outer sect, he would only be ranked 18th, which was insignificant. Moreover, this was only our Cloud Rain sect. The population of the 5 major sects in the Beacon Fire Empire was over 10 billion. Ling Feiyu aside, even Shui Jianfeng, who was known as the #1 outer sect disciple of Cloud Rain sect, was merely a drop in the ocean in the Beacon Fire Empire. Apart from the Beacon Fire Empire, the southern region still has 6 great empires, 27 mid-sized countries, and countless small countries. What's the population? Incalculable. Besides that, there was also the northern region, the western region, the eastern region, the central region. The nearly limitless territories were filled with hidden dragons and crouching tigers and geniuses. The so-called geniuses were probably as numerous as the sands of eternity. Just thinking about it makes this disciple's scalp tingle. Thus, crippling Ling Feiyu in one move is really not worth mentioning. Xiaohan's bullish *T was partly to lessen the shock the 3 leaders had towards him. Secondly, he was telling the truth. The Jianghu continent was vast and boundless, with a population in the trillions. Xiaohan did not dare to call himself a genius. Furthermore, those beneath the realm of Jinqi were all ants. What was there to be proud of? Xiaohan, you have a big heart. As the saying goes, the bigger your heart, the bigger your future achievements. Compared to you, the 3 of us are really like frogs at the bottom of a well. One of the leaders sighed. Immediately, his eyes lit up. Xiaohan, did you just say that you want to fight your way to their door? Yes. 3 leaders, this disciple heard from senior brother Acho that during this period of time, our peak has suffered a lot of vexation and no one stood up for us. Now that this disciple has returned and heard about this matter, I am very unhappy and want to help the 3 leaders vent their anger. After all, the 3 leaders have treated this disciple, Xiaohan, with kindness and kindness. The 3 leaders are feeling sullen and unhappy, and this disciple is also panicking. Xiaohan licked his lips and said, 3 leaders, what should we do now? This disciple's intention is that the 3 leaders will take the lead. We will block the door and fight our way to their doorstep. We will definitely take revenge for the smallest grievance. As long as we are on the stage, this disciple will let go of my hands and feet. If 1 comes, I will knock over 1. If 2 comes, I will knock over a pair. No matter how many people come up, this disciple will take care of them all. We will beat them until they are convinced. We will make them not dare to come and bark at our peak in the future. The 3 leaders looked at each other, and their eyes were gradually filled with excitement. Mother *. Suddenly, a manager cursed and said in a stern voice, during this period of time, we have been bullied badly enough. It is a pity that our sect has fallen and we can only swallow our anger and humiliation. We are suffocated to death. Good. Xiaohan. Since you are back, let's fight our way to their door. Block them. Let's vent our anger to our heart's content. Fight. Let's go. The other 2 leaders shouted in unison. Only they are allowed to fight their way to our door, but we are not allowed to retaliate? This time we will also fight our way to their doorstep. Ruthlessly humiliate them. The 3 leaders felt their blood boiling. Immediately they directly brought Xiaohan down the mountain. Acho also felt a surge of heat in his body and could not control himself. He immediately followed behind Xiao Han and the rest. The four of them walked down the mountain. When they passed by the arena area, the thousands of outer sect disciples still gathered and did not disperse. They stayed on the spot and whispered to each other, discussing the power of Xiao Han's blade. At this moment, when the outer disciples saw Xiao Han, Cho, and the three leaders of their own peak walking over aggressively, they were all stunned. Xiao Han's footsteps slightly stopped and he said loudly, "Everyone, these few months, the bastards from Jingshan's peak often came to provoke us and even injured many of our people. This time we will also fight our way to their doorstep. Those who are willing to go with me," Xiao Han followed behind. There was silence all around. The next moment, boom! The entire arena area was in an uproar. Thousands of outer sect disciples completely roared with passion. "Good. Senior brother Xiao Han will stand up for us, let's fight back. Follow senior brother Xiao Han." Senior brother Xiao Han is peerless, sweeping away thousands of soldiers. The bastards from that peak are all not senior brother Xiao Han's match. Fight. Cripple them. Let's see if they still dare to come over and behave atrociously. Go. Those who are courageous, all follow senior brother Xiao Han. Those who don't dare to go, scram home and drink milk. For a moment, thousands of outer sect disciples, regardless of male or female, all had flushed red faces and were so excited that their bodies trembled. One by one they lined up behind Xiao Han and rushed down the mountain like a flood. Their momentum was vast and majestic. Thousands of people climbed the mountain ridges and rushed towards the peak where Jingshan was at. Suddenly, a lush green mountain peak appeared in Xiao Han's vision. Halfway up the mountain, between the trees, there was a building that looked like a pagoda. It was ancient and majestic. It was the martial skill pavilion. Xiao Han's footsteps stopped. "Xiao Han, after passing through the martial skill pavilion, we will directly reach the peak where Jingshan is at." One of the leaders immediately stepped forward and said, "Ha." Xiao Han's mouth twitched and a strange light flashed in his eyes as he suddenly said, "Three leaders, please wait at the foot of the mountain. There is a small personal grudge between this disciple and Deacon Lung of the martial skill pavilion." With that, Xiao Han strode up the mountain. "Huh? What's going on? Let's follow and take a look." The three leaders immediately exchanged glances. At the White Jade Plaza outside the martial skill pavilion, people came and went, and there was an endless stream of outer sanctum disciples from the various peaks going in and out, choosing or returning martial skill secret manuals. "Deacon Lung. Disciple Xiao Han requests an audience." Xiao Han stood on the White Jade Plaza and shouted with a loud voice, "Oh, so impudent? Barking in the martial skill pavilion?" Immediately, many outer sect disciples stopped their footsteps and stopped to watch. Some of the outer disciples recognized Xiao Han and whispered to him, "What, Xiao Han? I heard that this kid was born a living target, but his luck is like a rainbow and he has many fortuitous encounters. Recently he has been in the limelight a lot. Furthermore, he dared to challenge the number one outer sect disciple, senior brother Shui Jianfeng. He is a madman and a ruthless character. However, what is wrong with him today? He actually ran to the martial skill pavilion and made a ruckus. Let's just watch the show. Don't provoke this Xiao Han. We can't afford to offend this person." In the next moment, a green-robed old man with an eagle's eyes walked out with a ferocious glint in his eyes. Who else could it be but Deacon Lung? "Xiao Han? It's you?" The corner of Deacon Lung's eyes twitched as he looked at Xiao Han. "Xiao Han, you're too impudent. Why are you making a ruckus here? You want to see me? What do you have to say? I heard that you recently beat up Yang Lei. You have guts, but you won't be able to get past Feiyu. Let's see how long you can be smug for. You're just a nobody. How dare you jump around in front of me? You're courting death." Deacon Lung clearly did not know that Xiao Han had already crippled Ling Feiyu. "Deacon Lung, it's not up to you to decide how long I can be smug. However, Deacon Lung gave me a piece of parchment and asked me to comprehend the mysteries within it. This matter is worth pondering. Later on, I heard that Yang Lei bribed Deacon Lung. So, Deacon Lung colluded with Yang Lei to trick me, right? I wonder what benefits Deacon Lung received for him to do such a dereliction of duty." Back then, Xiao Han was indeed tricked by Deacon Lung. If it wasn't for the Son of Heaven's divine fist's traces on that piece of parchment, the first martial technique that Xiao Han chose for free when he entered the outer sect would have been for naught. Passing by the martial skill chamber today, Xiao Han recalled this old matter. When he recalled how Deacon Lung coerced and bribed him back then, forcing that piece of parchment that he viewed as trash, he could not help but want to mock Deacon Lung to his face. He vented the resentment in his heart. Xiaohan was not afraid of offending Deacon Ling now. In Cloud Rain sect, as long as one was not at the true Qi realm, they would not receive much attention and did not have much power in their hands. Xiaohan's words were said with great fanfare, causing the outer sect disciples who were watching the show to hear every single word. Everyone had a strange expression on their faces and some even whispered. So, Deacon Lung is using his position for personal gain. What kind of martial technique can that piece of parchment produce? It'll be great if he doesn't go berserk. Xiaohan. Deacon Lung was enraged. His aura soared into the sky, revealing his ferocious face and murderous intent. How dare you slander my reputation? You're like a mad dog biting randomly. Do you really think that I don't dare to teach you a lesson? Deacon Lung took a step towards Xiaohan. His aura surged like the wind and clouds around him. He seemed to be growing taller and a domineering and sharp saber aura surged, causing the surrounding air to ripple like flowing water. Deacon Lung was obviously a bladesman who cultivated in saber techniques. This time he released his saber aura in an attempt to suppress Xiaohan. Bladesman? Xiaohan's heart skipped a beat. Soon after he laughed loudly. Ah. Good, very good. Deacon Lung, I'm here today to thank you for your guidance. Ah. Shockingly. A ferocious and ruthless saber aura like an evil dragon rushed out from Xiaohan's body. It swept through everything like a whirlwind, scattering the clouds and swallowing the mountains and rivers. Xiaohan was a bladesman who had comprehended the saber intent. Against ordinary bladesmen, he could suppress them like a master and his servant. If Deacon Lung did not release his saber aura recklessly and tried to suppress Xiaohan, he would be fine. However, as soon as he released his saber aura, he was like a rebel in front of Xiaohan's saber aura. In an instant, Deacon Lung's saber aura suddenly curled up and went back into his body. This time, it was like a counterattack, causing Deacon Lung's expression to change drastically. Piff! Deacon Lung spurted out a mouthful of blood. His legs were weak and he could not control his body. Suddenly he knelt down in front of Xiaohan. Deacon Lung? Why are you kneeling to me? I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Deacon Lung must be feeling guilty because he accepted a bribe that day, right? Alright, I forgive Deacon Lung. Who doesn't make mistakes? Xiaohan smiled innocently. He withdrew his saber aura and strode through the martial skill pavilion. The surroundings were filled with silence. P.S. Stay up late to update, please recommend me. In addition, I recommend a very nice Xuanhuan book. It is the same type as the Demon God. Everyone can go and collect it. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.